There are many people who know the beginning of the Power Rangers, which started with the Mighty Morphin series, but very few know the beginning of this story in the comics. Those who have been able to watch the videos of the comics on this channel have been able to realize that these stories are more in-depth and aimed at an adult audience. Unfortunately, many fans are still confused and don't know where to start reading the comics, since the stories they publish always have references to other stories from the past in the comics. Because of this, we have decided to start narrating the comics from the beginning so that we can understand all the stories we will be reading in the future. For those of you who follow the new stories of the comics on this channel, don't panic, we will continue to narrate the new stories when they are published. If you want to start reading the comics on your own, you can start by watching the video we posted on how to read the comics so you can understand this whole universe and where to start. The comics are divided into sagas, with the first saga being titled Green Ranger. We can start by seeing that Tommy Oliver is the Green Ranger, and he is alongside Rita Repulsa. The other Rangers are dead, and that is because Tommy is under Rita's spell. She is very excited about what Tommy has done and starts to congratulate him, telling him that the world is ready for its new beginning. At that moment, the voice of Jason, the Red Ranger, is heard calling Tommy. They were both in the car, and it seems that Tommy was thinking about all of this inside his head. Inside the car was also Rita, who was talking to Tommy and tormenting him. Jason obviously could not see Rita, but Tommy knew she was there. Jason suspects that something is wrong with Tommy, so he starts asking him questions, and he answers that he feels fine, but he is a little nervous because it is the first day he is going to school as a ranger. All the Rangers arrive at the school, and they all meet in the parking lot to have a conversation before entering the building. In this conversation they only talk about the exams they have, and we can start to see the personality of each one. Inside the school they try to talk to Tommy, but they realize that he is distracted and doesn't answer anything they are saying to him. In all this time Rita kept talking to Tommy, and that is why he was distracted. Then he tells the other Rangers that he must go and that he will catch up with them later. On the moon, we can see that at the palace Rita asks Finster if the new monster is ready, and he tells her that this new monster has unconventional weapons for an unconventional war. At the school we can see Tommy, Trini and Kimberly listening to the teacher in a class, and Kimberly sends a message to Tommy telling him that he can smile occasionally. We can see that Tommy liked the message, but suddenly another person enters alerting the students that they should run to the gym as there is an incident in progress. In the background we can hear the screams of the monster that Rita had sent to Earth, and all the students start running towards the gym. The Rangers go outside of the school to see what was going on and notice the giant monster. At that moment, Jason tells the Rangers that it's Morphin time, and all the Rangers begin the transformation. Then the Rangers decide to start big and call the Megazords. The monster continues to destroy the city, and the Rangers arrive with the Dino Megazord and the Dragon Zord to try to stop it. The monster is very strange. It has a circle of light on some parts of its body, and the Rangers are a bit confused because they don't know what it is. They start to think of a strategy to defeat the monster because it has a very strong armor, but at that moment Tommy attacks it with the Dragon Zord without asking the other Rangers. Then the other Rangers enter the fight with the Megazord and grab the monster by the neck so Tommy can attack it. Unfortunately, the Dragon Zord's controls are jammed, and Rita takes the opportunity to tell Tommy that he's nothing without her. The other Rangers are asking Tommy to attack quickly as they can't resist much, and Tommy, angry at Rita's words, takes control of the Dragon Zord. Then he manages to explode the monster with the tail, but Tommy loses control and the Zord is not responding. Because of this, He destroys a part of the bridge, and some people are in danger, so Kimberly goes to the rescue in her Zord. Kimberly's Zord takes off from the Megazord and manages to reach the cars that were about to fall into the water. Tommy is confused because he doesn't know what happened to the Dragon Zord, and in the command center he tries to explain to Zordon what was going on. Then Jason and Tommy start arguing as Jason tells him that he didn't follow orders and Tommy tells him that he didn't understand anything. Zordon stops the fight and talks about the responsibilities each of them has. He also talks about being vigilant, since now that Tommy is not on Rita's team, she is going to come in stronger. This lets us know that the story began after Jason managed to free Tommy from Rita's spell, and although in the TV series they show a Tommy loyal to the Rangers, here we are shown a slightly different story. We get to see that this Tommy is still confused, and Rita can speak to him in his thoughts. We then see Scorpina on a ship under the bridge that the Dragon Zord broke, and she is apparently looking for something. When she finds what she was looking for, we can see that it is a piece of crystal, and then she brings Rita this piece of crystal, still not knowing what it really was. Rita had told Scorpina that the Rangers were going to ignore this crystal, and apparently this is what caused the Dragon Zord to get out of control. Rita is very grateful for Scorpina's work for finding this crystal, and it is apparently very important. Because of this, Scorpina asks Rita what the crystal is. We will be able to see the answer in other comics later on, since this crystal is going to be very important for many stories, including Lord Drakkon's stories. Bulk and Skull are making a video recapping everything that has happened with the Rangers since the beginning. They begin the video by greeting their audience and introducing themselves to those new so-called subscribers. They start this recording from the juice bar and begin to explain everything they have been able to record about the Power Rangers. They both begin to tell the story of the first day the world was able to hear Rita Repulsa and knew that she wanted to conquer the Earth. Although that day may be remembered as the beginning of an era of terror and ugly monsters, they prefer to see things slightly differently. Even though the world got to meet this terrible witch, they also got to meet their heroes, the Power Rangers. They both start asking questions about who the Rangers are, how they got their powers, and where they keep their giant robots. Bulk then proceeds to answer these questions and says that no one knows the answers for sure. Then Skull says that, if you pay for the premium subscription to the podcast called The Ranger Station, you can listen to them talk about all these theories every week. Bulk gets angry and asks to stop the recording as he wants to do the promo at the end. He then continues the recording by saying that as much as Rita's monsters have tried, they have been no match for the Power Rangers, and that is the reason he has created his own Ranger. In this part, Bulk is talking about the Green Ranger. He then begins to relate the battle that was going on between the Green Ranger and the Power Rangers, as it was a great battle. He says that the Green Ranger seemed unstoppable, and everyone thought the world would fall into Rita's hands. Still, apparently the Rangers found a way to defeat him, and although they are not sure of this, it is what everyone assumes since they are still alive. He also says that 2 days ago we entered a new era as the Power Rangers and the Green Ranger with his Dragon Zord started working together. Despite this, Bulk and Skull don't know if the Power Rangers and the Green Ranger are partners, but they are going to interview the public to find out what they think. In the interviews we can see that there are unknown people, but also Billy, Trini and Tommy appear. The opinion of the unknown people is basically the same. They are all confused and think that the Green Ranger is not trustworthy since the Dragon Zord destroyed the bridge. Obviously, Billy and Trini say that it's good for the Rangers to work as a team, but Tommy doesn't want to answer and simply tells Bulk that he doesn't understand the question. Despite this, Bulk and Skull start pressuring Tommy by asking him to talk about what he thinks of the Power Rangers since he is the new kid in school. At that moment, Kimberly shows up and tells them both not to push Tommy anymore, as with that pressure he can't answer any questions. Tommy asks them to give him time to think about the answers, and they leave in a huff. Kimberly and Tommy continue to walk down the hallways of the school, and the two begin to talk about their plans for later in the day. Kimberly invites Tommy for coffee after practice, and he accepts, very surprised by the invitation. In the classroom we can see Jason sitting behind Zach, who is asleep and starts making a lot of noise. The teacher notices that Zach is asleep and proceeds to wake him up very angrily. Because of this he tells Zach that he is punished after class, and Jason tries to defend him, but the teacher punishes him as well. At lunchtime all the Rangers are gathered at the same table and begin to dialogue about what happened with Zach in class. Then Trini tells them that while Zach and Jason are serving their punishment, she and Billy are going to check the Dragonzord to find out why he didn't respond to Tommy. Kimberly is very concerned and asks Billy if they are going to be able to fix it. Billy obviously replies that he hopes they can make it since neither of them know what it looks like on the inside. We then see Tommy with his lunch looking for a place to sit while Rita keeps talking to him to try to manipulate him by humiliating him. She shows him that there are several people watching the video of the Dragonzord destroying the bridge and uses this to try to blame Tommy for the suffering of the people on that day. Tommy responds to Rita very angrily. He tells her that she won't be able to break him as he is stronger than her and is now a Power Ranger. At that moment, Tommy finds the other Rangers and sits down with them, but unfortunately, the bell rings and the Rangers must go to their classes. Tommy has a different schedule, so he is left alone at the table, but Kimberly reminds him before he leaves that they will see each other later. Bulk and Skull continue to interview people, and this time they are interviewing Jason and Zach. They both try to tell Bulk that the Rangers are a team and Rita also has a very large team. If the Green Ranger has switched sides, then they don't think that's a bad thing, but Bulk asks him, how do the Rangers know they can trust him? Zach tells him that the Rangers are giving him a chance. Jason ends up replying that everyone deserves a second chance, and if the Rangers believe in that guy, that's good enough for him. Then, at Rita's palace we can see that she is sitting on the throne with the crystal that Scorpina had been looking for, which she wants to know if the crystal is ready. Rita replies that even though the chaos energy caused by the Dragonzord destroying the monster and then the bridge, it was a very good start for an initial charge, even so, they need more. With this we can already know that Rita wants to fill this crystal with evil energy called chaos energy, which she can get when the crystal is near the Green Ranger, and he destroys something. Jason and Zach are serving their punishment, locked in a classroom after school, and since they have plenty of time, they begin to talk. Jason is a little upset that Zach won't tell him what's going on with him because he stayed up at night and that this caused him to fall asleep in class. In the end, Zach tells him that it's a family problem he's having at home, but then asks him if he's also upset that Zordon didn't ask anyone about how they feel about having Tommy on the team. Jason tells him that even though he is a little angry, still, if Zordon believed in them when they started and now he believes in Tommy, then they can't doubt. Now we can see Tommy inside the pocket dimension where Zordon can create a simulation of some situations for the Rangers to train in. In this situation we can see that the previous monster is attacking the Earth, Kimberly is in her Zord and Tommy tries to help several people. The putty patrollers try to attack the people, but Tommy starts to destroy them and asks Kimberly to help him by shooting from her Zord. Then Tommy tries to lead the people to a safe path, but it was a trap, and that path is full of putty patrollers. In the end Tommy can't take them all and the people are trapped there. All this time Rita was talking to Tommy, trying to discourage him, but he was able to resist. Then the simulation ends, and Tommy feels disappointed that he couldn't save the people. Zordon tells him that the mission was set up to fail because with this they can see how he reacted in moments of failure. Tommy asks him to try again, but this time he wants to try alone and asks Kimberly to reschedule the coffee date. At the end of the day, Tommy gets home and tries to practice what he is going to say in the Bulk and Skull interview. He looks in the mirror and thinks about how to answer about what the Rangers mean to him. At that moment he feels a sword on his neck. It was Scorpina who tells him not to waste too much time as he only has a few moments left. After the Dragon Zord failed and Tommy couldn't control it, the Rangers wanted to know what happened that day. It was Billy who obviously had to start investigating what was going on with the Dragon Zord, since he is the only Ranger with the knowledge necessary to repair a Zord. Trini is the only Ranger who can understand Billy's words when he tries to explain what is going on, since she is so intelligent that her way of speaking is hard for most people to understand. Even though Trini understands, she still isn't smart enough to be able to fix the Zords herself. They are both trying to repair the Dragon Zord, and the explanation Billy says is that the Zords make a balance between what they feel on the outside and the Ranger who is controlling it. If one of these two parts fails, then the Zord goes out of control. This is the first time Billy is going to enter the cockpit of the Dragon Zord, and so he is a little nervous as he doesn't know what he is going to find in there. He thinks that the Zord might be made of some unknown magic, since Rita was the one controlling Tommy, but Trini clarifies to him that Tommy is just like the other Rangers. Billy tells her that Tommy is just like the other Rangers, a fighter like the others. This is because Billy has never been a fighter and has always been a person who solves things with his intellect. Trini tries to encourage him by telling him that no one can do what he does, and she has learned a lot from him. This is why Billy could be the most well-rounded team member, since he learned how to fight and is the smartest Ranger in history. Possibly, Billy could be the most important member of the team, since he has created a lot of technology that the Rangers have used, and he has managed to save the other Rangers from many difficult situations. Both of them are still trying to repair the Dragon Zord, which is in the depths of the ocean, and Billy wants to do it fast to get out of the water. Scorpina continues into Tommy's room and starts threatening him to hand over the power coin. Tommy obviously refuses and tells her that Rita must be desperate to have to send a stand-in. At that moment, Tommy's mother comes to the door of the room to offer him food, and Scorpina tries to use this moment to further threaten Tommy. Because of this, Tommy gets very angry, and after pushing Scorpina's sword, he grabs her by her arm and teleports to a faraway place. She takes advantage of this moment to break Tommy's communicator, since she thinks that now in this place, he will not be able to get help, and now she will be able to defeat him. Tommy realizes the situation, so he does Morphin to start fighting. The battle begins and Tommy tries to attack with his dragon dagger, but Scorpina defends herself very well with her sword. Then she underestimates Tommy and tells him that he should think things over before fighting an experienced warrior when he is so young. She is a great warrior with many skills, and this is demonstrated when she disappears without Tommy noticing. Then she appears above him and attacks him hard. At the end we can see that Scorpina now has many putty patrollers behind her ready to attack Tommy. We now see Jason as a teacher in a martial arts class, and apparently his students respect him a lot. Kimberly is sitting waiting for the class to end so she can talk to Jason and enjoys listening to the students. The two begin a dialogue and she tells Jason that she just wanted to get out of her house since her parents are still fighting. Then she also tells him about what happened with Tommy, and now she thinks he might not even be noticing her. Jason tells her that class is over, so he needs some coffee and invites her over in case she still wants coffee. Kimberly accepts the invitation, and just then Jason's martial arts teacher shows up. She recommends to Jason that he should bring Tommy to teach the class together since he has a different fighting style because he comes from another place and that would be good for the students. In Jason's words we can notice that he didn't like this idea very much, but he still said he would think about it. At that moment, the communicator rings and Zordon tells the Rangers that Tommy needs help. In the middle of Tommy's battle, we can see the words of Rita, who is explaining what is truly going on as she has a hidden plan. Scorpina's sword has the Chaos Crystal, and every hit Tommy takes fills this crystal with energy. Rita chose Tommy because he never gives up and she knew he was going to keep fighting. This is going to keep causing the crystal to keep filling with energy and she will be able to complete her plan. Despite this, Rita wants Scorpina to take the power coin from him as she says this will get them the victory. Tommy is losing the battle and now Scorpina is going to try to take the power coin from him. At that moment, Jason and Kimberly arrive to save Tommy by firing their blasters at Scorpina. Jason starts fighting Scorpina while Kimberly tries to free Tommy using the blaster sword. Then Zack arrives to help the Rangers as well, and Scorpina continues to threaten the Rangers by telling them that Armageddon is coming. When Kimberly finally frees Tommy, Tommy starts running to try to catch up to Scorpina, saying that he can't let her escape. Despite this, Scorpina escapes and Tommy is left very confused in the middle of the forest as Rita starts talking to him again. She tries to turn him against the other Rangers by telling him that Jason wouldn't have needed help and basically making him feel like a failure. She also tries to make him think that the other Rangers think he is a failure, and this is why they must come help him. Although Tommy tries to stop Rita from playing with his thoughts, she manages to make him start to get confused. Because of this, Tommy tries to defend himself from the Rangers by explaining everything that happened since they are confused. The Rangers don't understand how Tommy was with Scorpina in that place and Tommy thinks that they are accusing him. Rita's words really have Tommy very confused, and this has started to create misunderstandings among the Rangers. At the command center, the Rangers along with Zordon try to figure out Rita's plan as they understand that she is after Tommy's power coin and is going to try anything to get it. Rita keeps talking to Tommy in his thoughts and tells him that the right decision is to give the coin to her. Despite this, Tommy says that he doesn't care what she tries, but he's not going to give her the power coin or the Dragon Zord. Kimberly then asks Billy and Trini if they managed to figure out what was going on with the Dragon Zord. Billy begins to explain that basically the Zord was fine, but for some unknown reason the Dragon Zord stopped obeying Tommy. Rita takes this opportunity to tell Tommy that he is to blame for this and that he is to blame for the destruction of the bridge. Suddenly, Tommy shouts very angrily and says that he is tired of all this, the annoying talk and all. At that moment, he could no longer continue talking and fainted. In Rita's palace we can see that Golder is locked up as a punishment for losing the Green Ranger. Because of this, Golder does not want to eat as he feels ashamed for failing his queen and now thinks that she will never release him. On Earth, after Tommy passed out, he now wakes up in his mother's house and she tries to wake him up. Tommy wakes up and is very confused, not knowing what was going on. His mother begins to explain to him that he had passed out and his ranger friends brought him home to rest. With those words Tommy was already suspecting that something was not right, and his mother started to tell him that he should just give up. As she says these words, she starts to take off her mask as she was not Tommy's mother, she was actually Rita in disguise. Tommy gets very scared, and Rita starts to tell him that she is the only one who really loves him. Suddenly, Tommy screams very loudly, and at that moment he wakes up again in the command center. This was all part of a hallucination he had while passing out. The other Rangers are very concerned as they don't understand what is happening to Tommy, as he is still very confused after passing out. Kimberly tries to calm him down and asks Alpha to get him some water. The Rangers think that something might have happened to him because of the fight he had with Scorpina. Trini starts checking Tommy's pulse and notices that his heart is beating too fast, so she tells Zordon that she thinks they should do a scan. Zordon thinks the scan would be very prudent, and Trini tries to calm Tommy down by telling him that she is going to try to find out what was happening to him. Rita, in her palace, starts to say that Tommy is losing control, and the best part is that the other Rangers haven't noticed. She also explains that she is still connected to the Green Ranger since, even though she is not under his spell, she is still connected to his powers since she gave them to him. Scorpina begins to apologize for failing the mission since she was supposed to take the power coin from Tommy and also the dragon dagger. Rita replies that she did an excellent job since what they needed was for Tommy to fight at his maximum power so that the green energy of chaos would begin to fill the crystal with energy. Now all that's left is the final attack, and the crystal will have enough energy to open the portal. Scorpina is confused as she thought they needed the dragon dagger for the final attack, but Rita tells her that they don't need the dragon dagger, they just need a dragon dagger. This means they can create a replica of the original dagger, and this would be enough. Finster brings a hot metal in liquid form to fill the hole of a putty patroller that has the dragon dagger impregnated after the fight with Tommy. This way they can create an exact replica of the original dagger. In the command center, Trini begins to test Tommy to find out what is happening in his body and all his energy. She starts talking to him to try to calm him down, as Tommy is very nervous and says that Trini is very good at relaxing her patients. Then, they both start to hear a very loud noise, and they leave the command center along with Alpha. This noise was caused by the Dragonzord, which tries to hit them with its tail, and Alpha 5 is destroyed. Trini and Tommy were able to dodge the blow, and now she thinks he called the Zord. They both morph to try to stop the Dragonzord, but it quickly attacks them, so Trini calls her Zord so they can fight. The battle of both Zords begins, and although Trini's Zord is very fast, still, the Dragonzord is very powerful and manages to knock him down. Tommy tries to control the Zord with the music of the dagger, so the Zord starts to get closer. Tommy keeps playing the melody to control the Zord, and when he thinks he is under control, the Dragonzord attacks him. Suddenly, Tommy wakes up again in the command center, and it seems that he had another evil vision provoked by Rita. He begins to tell Trini everything he saw in his vision, although he still thinks it all felt very real. She tries to calm him down and asks him to lie down again so she can review his entire energy scan. The other Rangers are gathered in a restaurant, and Zack is talking to them about what's going on with Tommy. He thinks something isn't right, but they don't know what it is yet. Despite everything that has happened, still, Kimberly keeps defending Tommy, then gets really angry and tells the other Rangers that if they have something to say they should say it now. Jason doesn't want to get too involved, but Zack starts to say that Tommy came to this town and Rita chose him, and she doesn't choose just anyone. They don't know if even Rita is still controlling him, since in the woods, he had a bad attitude, and that should scare them all. Kimberly asks Zack if he's not even going to give Tommy a second chance, but he replies that they just need to be much more careful. Kimberly then asks Jason for his opinion, and he tells her that with all the things that have happened, it's clear that there is something wrong with Tommy. Kimberly tells them that this is a reason for them to help him, and Jason replies that they are going to help him, but they can't do much until he admits to himself that he has a problem. Then Billy says he's going to be able to fix the communicator, and at that point Trini calls the Rangers to go to the command center to see something. At the command center, Trini shows everyone what an energy scan of any of the Rangers looks like, and we can see that it is an organized energy. She then shows Tommy's energy results, and this energy looks different. Billy says that the dragon coin is not connected to the grid in the same way as the other coins, but it is still weird that his energy looks like this. Zordon then explains that this could have many explanations, including just Tommy's body getting used to the energy. The Rangers are worried as they don't know if this is Rita's fault, and Zordon says he can't say for sure without more proof. Kimberly again starts to defend Tommy, saying that it is impossible that Rita is controlling him, since if he was having visions then he would have said so quickly. At this point, Tommy begins to confess everything that had been happening to him all this time. The Rangers begin to confront him and ask him questions about everything Rita tells him in those visions. Then they ask him why he didn't say anything, and Tommy says he wasn't sure what was going on. Then Jason, very angry, starts to claim him since Tommy put everyone's life in danger and he feels responsible for everyone else's life. Now Jason feels that they can't trust Tommy and tells him that he is not ready to go out and fight. Just then, the alarm goes off and the Rangers realize something is going on with the Dragon Zord. Apparently, Rita's plan worked. Scorpina managed to take full control of the Zord using the Dragon Dagger replica combined with the crystal. Now with control of the Dragon Zord, they can now make the final attack and complete the plan. Rita then tells Scorpina to go and destroy everything in her path. Scorpina starts smashing everything in her path, and the first thing she destroys is a ship that was nearby. She confirms to Rita that she can feel how the crystal keeps filling with energy and is now more powerful. Rita tells him to continue so that the crystal fills completely and opens the portal for Armageddon to begin. In the command center, the Rangers are very confused as they don't understand how Scorpina is controlling the Dragon Zord. Apparently, Zordon is not surprised as he says that Rita's history with the Dragon Zord is very long, and he seems to assume that because of this she must have found a way to control the Zord. Billy and Trini try to figure out what energy they are controlling the Dragon Zord with, but they can't figure out what is going on. Meanwhile, Jason asks Tommy to stay in the command center while they take care of everything, and then says it's Morphin time. All the Rangers are morphing, but Jason knows they need to get help from the Zords, so he calls them all in. In the city we can see the Dragon Zord starting to destroy everything. People start to run away and Scorpina is very happy with what she is doing. Suddenly, we can see that Billy grabs the Dragon Zord by the foot with the chains of his Zord so he can't move and continue destroying. All the Zords are on the shore of the sea, so Jason asks Billy to drag the Dragon Zord into the sea to get it away from the shore. We can see how Billy has the Dragon Zord tied up and starts to turn around to drag it into the water. On the moon, Rita is very angry about everything that is happening since the Rangers are ruining her plan, so she asks Finster to send monsters to help Scorpina and distract the Rangers while she completes the mission. Just then, 3 giant shark-headed monsters appear and start beating up the Zords, and one of them breaks the chains that were keeping the Dragon Zord bound. Zack, Billy and Trini begin to battle the monsters, while Jason and Kimberly try to stop the Dragon Zord. The battle is very difficult as the monsters are very strong and Scorpina is attacking Jason with the full power of the Dragon Zord. In the command center we are about to witness the most important part of this story, and that is that Tommy starts to listen to Rita again. She tries to humiliate Tommy by telling him that he was left out again and that the hero life is not for everyone. Tommy gets very angry and tells Rita that he remembered some words Trini had said to him. When you go through something terrible, ignoring it empowers him, and the only way to deal with it is to face it. Then, he tells her that, instead of listening to her all the time, he should be the one talking, and he doesn't think she is real. He thinks she's just a reflection of his self-doubt, his insecurity, and everything he hates about himself. Yet, she is still himself, and the only way she has power is if he gives it to her. Then, Tommy is filled with self-confidence, and the specter of Rita begins to fade as she screams in despair. Now, Tommy is full of confidence and thinks that he can't just stand there and do nothing while the Rangers are about to be defeated. Zordon tries to persuade him by telling him that if he leaves, then he will be disobeying a direct order from Jason. Still, Tommy says that he has the real dagger and perhaps this can save the situation. He is also very sorry to learn that he is disobeying an order, but feels he must try, so he does Morphin. In the middle of the battle, we can see that Tommy appears on top of the Dragonzord's head and Jason is very surprised. Then, Tommy starts creating music with his dagger to try to control the Zord, but Scorpina taunts and makes the Zord shake, so Tommy falls off. Kimberly manages to catch Tommy with her Zord, and then Trini tells Jason that they need the Megazord since the monsters are too strong. At first, Jason refuses as he is trying to stop Scorpina, but Tommy tells him to call the Megazord as he has a plan. Jason trusts Tommy and begins the Megazord transformation while Tommy asks Kimberly to get as close as she can to the Dragonzord. He then lunges towards the Dragonzord and goes in, breaking the Zord's eye. As he battles Scorpina inside the Zord, the Megazord finishes his transformation and is ready to finish off the monsters. The second round of the battle begins. The Megazord is destroying the monsters with the sword, while Tommy continues to fight Scorpina inside the Dragonzord. All this distracts Scorpina, and Tommy is still focused on grabbing the dagger replica. He then manages to grab it and destroys it to stop the mission. Once again, the Rangers have managed to defeat Rita and damaged her entire plan. Even though the Rangers won the battle, in the command center they are arguing about what happened. Jason starts to call Tommy out for disobeying his orders. He tries to defend himself by saying they needed help, but Jason tells him that's not enough of an excuse. The fight gets really loud, and Tommy tells Jason that without him the Rangers wouldn't be there right now. Then Zack enters the argument and tells him that he couldn't trust what he was seeing. Tommy tries to explain to him that he managed to get himself under control and that there was no hallucination. He also explains that the dagger replica and the crystal were what caused his powers to go weird. Now that it's destroyed, they just need to concentrate on locking Scorpina up. He then turns to leave, but Jason tells him they're not done yet, and Zack grabs him by the arm to keep him from leaving. This causes Tommy to get very angry and he asks Zack to let go. Zack then tells him that he is tired of him telling the Rangers what they should do. Tommy again asks him to back off, and Zack asks him if he is going to be an evil Ranger again. The argument continues, and while they are still very angry, the crystal continues to fill with energy as it feeds off the chaos. Even though the dagger is broken, the crystal is still intact and can continue to fill with energy. Then, Tommy and Jason reach their limits of patience and are about to start fighting. This causes the crystal to fill completely with energy, which was Rita's plan, and then the portal opens. Jason asks the Rangers to put their helmets back on as they don't know what is happening, but at that very moment the energy creates a huge explosion. This explosion was so big that it destroyed half of the command center, and even though the Rangers are okay, we don't know where Zordon and Alpha are. Tommy thinks it's another hallucination, but Trini tells him it's all very real, and this is because they see a giant monster appear. Kimberly thinks they need the Zords, but something very strange starts to happen and the monster begins to shrink in size. The monster greets the Power Rangers and tells them that he has been waiting for this moment for a long time and is eager to destroy them. Now the Rangers must try to face this powerful being, and they don't know where he comes from, and they already realize that he has a great power since he almost destroyed them all. Black Dragon reduced his size and begins to dialogue with the Rangers. He tells them that he wanted to offer them a chance to surrender, but he knew that was not going to happen. Obviously, the Rangers are very angry since this unknown monster destroyed the command center, so Jason tells him that he just destroyed their home and there is no chance in the world that they will surrender. Obviously, all the Rangers agree with their leader, so Black Dragon replies that all is decided, and it was what he expected. He then proceeds to begin his attack, something the Rangers had never experienced before and didn't know was possible. The monster opens its mouth and begins to launch a wave of power that apparently separates the powers of the Rangers' bodies. This is why we can see the Rangers' suits begin to fade, and this appears to be a very painful noise as the Rangers try to cover their ears. Despite this, Jason asks Kimberly if he can do anything, and she already understands what to do. Black Dragon continues to attack with force, but Kimberly grabs her bow to start shooting arrows and try to stop the attack. This attack is so powerful that it makes it difficult for the Rangers to move, so Kimberly's attack is very difficult to achieve. She manages to launch the first arrow, which explodes in the head of the monster, and with this she manages to stop the attack. Now the Rangers can move, so they start the battle to try to stop this dragon. Meanwhile, Kimberly continues to shoot arrows to give the Rangers a bit of an advantage, and they begin to run towards the monster. Zack and Jason try the first attack, but the monster launches its power and sends Zack flying. He then grabs Jason by the arm as Tommy tries to attack from behind, but the dragon is smart and throws a punch with his tail that also sends him flying and lands on Kimberly. He now has Jason grabbed and starts his attack directly in his face. Then Billy and Trini attack him from behind and stick their guns in his back. Despite this, the monster manages to hit them and throws them both to the ground, but he has to let go of Jason to accomplish this. The Rangers are taking a beating, but despite this Jason doesn't give up and tells the Black Dragon that he's going to give him one last chance. A bit of a rambling act since they are the ones who took the brunt of the battle. Because of this, the monster refuses to give up and attacks Jason and Trini with an energy that comes out of his hand. This almost destroys them both, and so Trini tells Jason that they should withdraw from the fight and look for somewhere to save themselves. Tommy is still trying to recover from the blow, and at that moment the monster arrives again. Kimberly is paralyzed and doesn't know what to do, and the Black Dragon grabs Tommy by the neck. Trini starts saying that she can teleport everyone to the pocket dimension, and Jason asks her to run the necessary systems there as well since all the command centers are exposed. As the Black Dragon has Tommy by the throat, he tells him that the Green Ranger is always very different and unique, so he's going to make him a little more normal. Zack uses his power axe to hit the monster hard to get it to let go of Tommy and tells the other Rangers that it was time to leave. Jason presses the necessary buttons to start the teleportation to the pocket dimension, but at that precise moment the monster manages to grab Billy by the arm so he can't teleport. The plan works to perfection as Billy was unable to teleport and then tries to defend himself, but the Black Dragon easily defeats him. With Billy lying on the ground, the monster proceeds to send a message to Rita and tells her that they are ready to receive her. The other Rangers arrived in the pocket dimension and hadn't realized what had happened to Billy. They begin to notice that the entire pocket dimension was falling apart, and Trini says that this may be happening because of Zordon's absence. The Rangers try to take in what just happened as they are still shocked with everything that happened, and then Trini realizes that Billy is not with them. They try to figure out what happened as they thought Billy was right next to them, and they don't know if the teleportation failed. Trini says they should go back, but Jason was watching everything that was going on through a screen and says that Rita is already there. Zack starts to do the recap of everything that has happened and realizes that they lost everything. They lost Zordon, they lost Alpha, there is a dragon that can beat them up, they destroyed the command center, and now they have the one person who could have answers to everything that is going on. Kimberly asks Tommy to try to remember something about everything he could hear while being controlled by Rita to try to figure out what might be going on. Tommy remembers that Scorpina had said that the crystal was charged with green chaos energy, so that's what opened the portal, and Zack concludes that the black dragon is linked to Tommy somehow. Tommy accepts that conclusion, but Zack is really angry about this, and they both start arguing. Then Kimberly separates them and tells them that they should all be friends so they can help each other. They both apologize while Jason and Trini continue to try to figure out a way in how they can defeat the monster. Now we get to see Alpha 5's body, and we realize that his head is separated from his body. Meanwhile, Rita starts talking about everything that happened and tells the monster that when he offered her all that she was hesitating. Now she thinks it was all a success, except for the loss of Scorpina. The black dragon welcomes the Empress. He also tells her that the Rangers escaped to the pocket dimension, and they need to follow them there. We can see that he already has Billy's morpher and tells Rita that he will use that power coin as an access point. He then starts to throw his power coming out of his mouth by putting the chaos crystal in front of it and then the power coin. In the pocket dimension, the Rangers continue to try to find out what happened to Alpha and Zordon, as they don't know if they survived. They also say that for now the priority is Billy, who was probably taken to the dark dimension. At that moment, the Rangers begin to feel the black dragon's attack and his power begins to leave their bodies. This does not affect Tommy, but the other Rangers are left without powers, and now none of them are transformed. Billy is in the dark dimension and his glasses are broken on the floor. Due to this, he can't see anything around him, but he hears a noise and starts to ask if anyone is there. Golder was close to Billy, and the noise he heard was the chains he had. Golder starts talking to Billy and tells him that he will slowly get used to that place until he feels it is his home. The reason Golder is there in chains is because he failed Rita and lost his Green Ranger. He tells Billy that he had failed Rita many times before. Why is it different now? Golder gets very angry and basically tells him to worry about his own problems. In the command center, we can see that the Black Dragon is in the Zord hideout near Jason, the Red Ranger's Zord. The monster uses his power again to wake up the Zords and tells them it's time to get up. Apparently, this power has the ability to control everything using the power of the Morphin grid. In another part of the command center, we can see that many putty patrollers are lying on top of each other to form a wall, and then Rita's helpers burn them with fire to transform them into a rock wall. Inside the command center, Rita asks the putty patrollers to put their throne in the same place where Zordon's tube was. Then Rita sits on the throne with Alpha 5's head in her hand and starts talking to him as if she were talking to a human being. She tells him that she couldn't have known what was going on because she served Zordon, and then says that she is going to create a lamp with that head so that for the first time it will serve a purpose. In the pocket dimension, Trini starts checking all the morphers to find out what happened to her powers, but realizes that there was nothing wrong with the morphers and everything was working. She is very overwhelmed by everything that was going on, as she feels that Zordon, Alpha, or Billy could have easily figured this out. Jason and Zack try to encourage her not to give up, and she comes to the conclusion that she has no powers because of the way they connect to the Morphin grid. In the Green Ranger saga, we had already seen that Tommy connects in a different way to the grid, and because of this, everyone has lost their powers except Tommy. Elsewhere in the pocket dimension, Tommy is still watching the replays of the videos of the explosion that opened the portal through which the Black Dragon entered, and is still feeling guilty for having fought with Zack and Jason. This fight was what filled the green chaos crystal with energy, and this is why Tommy feels he could have prevented it. Kimberly sits down with him to listen to him and keep him from continuing to blame himself for everything. Tommy says that this was the opportunity to make a good impression, but he blew it, and Kimberly sarcastically responds to him by saying that the first impression was trying to kill them. She then tells him that it was also the team's fault since they were used to the same people and sometimes people have a hard time with change. She tells him that he was the only one who didn't lose his powers, and maybe this is the opportunity to prove how valuable he is. At that moment, they begin to see a message that Rita is transmitting from the command center. This message is transmitted all over the planet, and she begins to say that the war is over. She asks all the leaders of the world to surrender to her before she destroys them all. She then tells them that she has destroyed the Power Rangers, so they won't be able to come save them, and that she also has control of the Zords. We can see that the Zords are in different cities around the world, ready to follow Rita's orders. Then she says that the leaders of the world have 24 hours to think about it. Those who don't want to surrender will be considered her enemies, and she will conquer them by force. In the pocket dimension, all the Rangers gather to make a plan after hearing Rita's message. They all try to come up with information for the plan, but Trini keeps regretting that Billy isn't there to help them, and Tommy tells them that he can rescue him. Jason doesn't know if the pocket dimension can be entered, and Tommy replies that at the base of the moon there is a portal to enter the dark dimension. Zack asks Tommy how he is going to get there, and apparently Jason and Tommy already have a plan. They both use the Dragon Zord to fly to the moon, and it is that the Zords are very powerful machines that can achieve incredible things. Even though Jason already knew that the Zords could fly to the moon, they are both still impressed that they have managed to fly there. The moon base is guarded by putty patrollers who start shooting at the Dragon Zord. Tommy and Jason fight back and easily destroy the putty patrollers with the Dragon Zord's finger missiles. Tommy gives Jason the Dragon Dagger so he can continue to control the Dragon Zord, and then leaves to enter the moon base. Tommy tries to get in without anyone seeing him, while all the putty patrollers are still running outside to defend the castle. Then the Green Ranger gets to the machine that opens the portal to enter the dark dimension, but unfortunately, the Black Dragon was waiting for him. In the pocket dimension, Trini is still trying to think of some solution to these problems. She tries to think of Zordon and tries to understand if he can be somewhere since the energy cannot be destroyed. Then she starts to regret again that Billy is not there with her, as he would have found the clue she is looking for. Zack tries to comfort her by telling her that she is doing well and that she is pushing herself too hard. Trini then starts to regret telling Jason to back out of the battle they were having with the Black Dragon, but Zack tells her that was a good call since they were taking a beating and it could have been worse. Then they start to hear something on the screen and to their surprise think it's Alpha. On the moon, Jason continues to destroy all the weapons on the moon base, but the black dragon hits Tommy hard enough to throw him far away. The monster then learns that Jason is controlling the Dragonzord even though he has no powers and plans to confront him. The black dragon transforms to a giant size to start fighting the Dragonzord controlled by Jason. The monster is very powerful and also starts to beat up the Dragonzord. This monster hits the Zord so hard that it knocks Jason out and the Dragonzord is left floating and unable to move. Tommy is very worried about Jason, but unfortunately, he has a bigger problem right now as the black dragon is gigantic and can easily crush him. Because of this, the monster takes full advantage of the leverage he has and grabs Tommy by his arm. The Rangers are in the worst moment of their history since they have no powers and the last chance to save the person who can help them is lost. After Rita gave the leaders of the world only 24 hours to surrender, Bulk and Skull report everything that has been happening. In Tokyo, there is the Blue Rangers Zord and the military have been trying to get inside it but have not been able to. Due to this, they have caused a lot of destruction in part of the city and the same is happening in other cities. The Zords have responded to the attacks and have started to destroy everything. Bulk starts to say that they haven't seen the Dragonzord since the attack in the bay. Basically this was when Scorpina was using the Zord to try to fill the energy crystal. On the moon, we continue to see that the black dragon has Tommy held by the shield and begins to claim several things from him. First, he tells him that he had everything, the Empress gave him everything, he turned his back on her and only to die all alone now on the moon. Then, Tommy makes the shield disappear so he can free himself from the hands of the monster and begins to communicate with Jason. He tells him that he needs some distraction since it's too hard to fight a giant monster, but Jason is trying to stabilize the Dragonzord after the beating that the monster gave him and now it's floating out of control. Tommy wants to try to rescue Billy again and Jason advises him to stay close to the black dragon as it is so big that he won't be able to move well enough to catch it. The monster thinks Tommy wants to escape from the moon and keeps trying to attack him to stop him. Then, the Green Ranger takes advantage of the lack of gravity on the moon and raises one of the palace's guns to shoot the monster. Even though it was a good try, the black dragon attacks it and obviously manages to knock it down. Tommy then tries to play with its mind by telling it various things to make the monster change its size and because of this the black dragon returns to its normal size. The monster says that he doesn't want Tommy to have any excuses after losing the battle. At that moment, Tommy tries to attack him quickly, but the black dragon is very strong and manages to knock him down. With Tommy on the ground, the monster begins to hit him very hard to try to finish him off and the Green Ranger's helmet begins to crack. One more punch and the Green Ranger's helmet is going to break, but at that precise moment Jason arrives in the Dragonzord to stop the monster. Jason hits the monster so hard that it rips his arm off and saves Tommy. Now Jason is going to try to teleport Tommy into the Zord and the Green Ranger is going to take the monster's arm. While they do this, the black dragon behind them starts to change size. Inside the Dragonzord Tommy starts to ask for Billy as he still wants to save him, but Jason tells him that they already missed their chance, and they must leave to try to find another way to save him. The Rangers managed to escape from the moon successfully and the black dragon could not stop him. In the pocket dimension, the Rangers are still trying to talk to Alpha, who has used his backup system to be able to send signals to the Rangers since his body, which is his main power source, is not connected to his head. Alpha begins to respond to the Rangers and explains that he is lying in the trash unable to move since he has no body. He also tells them that Rita sent all his parts to be melted down, but before that, he was able to hear her plans. At that moment, Jason arrives holding Tommy, who is in bad shape and needs to rest. Jason then explains to the Rangers everything that happened and gives Trini the arm of the Black Dragon in the hope that this can help them in some way. Alpha greets Jason and Jason is very surprised to hear Alpha's voice again. The robot begins to explain to the Rangers how the Black Dragon is controlling the Zords and is using Billy's power coin to access the Rangers' powers. Everyone is worried as Rita's deadline is almost up and they need to find some way to stop her. In the command center we can see how they use the Blue Ranger's power coin to access the powers, and Rita starts to complain to the Black Dragon. The monster responds that he underestimated the Green Ranger, but that won't happen again. Rita doesn't understand how they can't take away the Green Ranger's powers, and the Black Dragon tries to explain to her that the Dragon Coin accesses the grid in a different way. Rita begins to doubt the monster and tells him that she thinks that on the moon he was hesitating to destroy the Green Ranger. This makes the Black Dragon very angry, and he tells Rita that he is doing everything for her since she was not able to destroy the Rangers. Rita tries to tell him about the monster's motives for destroying the Rangers, but he yells at her that his motives are none of her business. He then tells her that he only wants to destroy the Green Ranger himself, and the next time he sees him he won't hesitate to give him the final blow. Meanwhile, we can see that Finster has created a new arm for Black Dragon since Jason had ripped off his other one. In the Dark Dimension, Billy tries to talk to Golder, but Golder doesn't want to talk to him as he thinks they are enemies. Golder is very convinced that Rita is still his Empress, and he is her sworn honor guard, so therefore, they are still enemies. Billy tries to play with his mind by telling him that maybe Rita doesn't think the same way, but Golder still hopes that she still thinks about him. In the Pocket Dimension, Zack approaches Tommy and apologizes for everything that had previously happened between them. He tells him that even though Rita chose him, it doesn't mean that there is something wrong with him. He also tells her that only a Ranger has been able to fight a giant monster alone, and this refers to the battle Tommy had with the Black Dragon on the moon. Tommy then replies that, if there was any way he could have traded places with the other Rangers, he could have done it. At that moment, Tommy has a great idea that can help the Rangers change everything. He quickly tries to talk to the other Rangers and tells them that he has a plan to activate everyone's powers. Basically, the plan is to use the Black Dragon's arm to produce the same energy that is going through the Blue Ranger's power coin to access the grid. This same energy could be used to go through the Green Ranger's power coin to help the other Rangers connect their powers to the grid again. Alpha begins to explain that this is possible, but Tommy would be helpless since he would not be able to use his powers. Despite this, Tommy wants to go through with the plan as he says that the other Rangers together can get the Zords back and that he can't do it all alone. Tommy uses the arm of the Black Dragon, and they all start morphing. The whole place is filled with green energy, and then something unexpected happens. All the Rangers have achieved the transformation, but now they are all green. There is very little time left for the leaders of the land to surrender and start being loyal to Rita. Meanwhile, the Zords are ready to start the attack, and the Black Dragon says that they are going to turn the cities into rubble. This monster's plan is to start in the Power Rangers city, and he is preparing Jason's Zord to start the attack. Despite this, the soldiers don't give up and want to keep fighting even though they know they have no chance of winning. Suddenly, they begin to see a green light that does not allow them to see well, and they hear a voice telling them not to worry. This voice is Jason, the Red Ranger, who is now green because of the transformation with the help of Tommy. In addition to his green color, Jason also has Tommy's shield, which gives him more energy and protection. The black dragon wastes no time and quickly attacks Jason, but he dodges the attack. The monster then tells him that no matter how he finds a way to transform again, he still has control of the Zords. Jason tells him that now that he can transform again, he has access to his Zord and all the others as well. All the Rangers respond by confirming that this is true since they were all inside their Zords. Zack has control of the Mastodon, Kimberly is still flying in her Zord, and Trini is ready for action again online. Despite this, the Rangers do not have control of the Blue Ranger's Zord, so the Black Dragon takes advantage of this and gives the order to the Zord to begin the attack. Before the Blue Zord starts the attack, he receives an attack from the Dragon Zord, and Tommy tells him that he is not going to let the monster destroy everything. Because of this, the Black Dragon changes size to start fighting the Dragon Zord and hits him hard in the face. The monster tells Tommy that he shouldn't have come back, and now that he is alone, nothing is going to save him. Tommy tells him that he has learned his lesson, and because of that he is using the Dragon Dagger. We can see that Tommy is not transformed, as he had to share his power with the other Rangers and is using his dagger to control the Dragon Zord. At that moment, Kimberly says that this time Tommy is not alone, and we can see that all the Zords are gathered to start the final battle. In the dark dimension, Billy and Golder see everything that is happening in the city, as somehow it is all being projected in front of them. They both start talking about what is happening, and Billy can tell that Golder is very angry. Because of this, he starts asking him several questions, and Golder confesses that he doesn't like Black Dragon. He also tells Billy that he is the one who should be there in that battle and not Black Dragon. Now, Billy asks him more questions to try to get information about the identity of the monster, and Golder starts talking about how the communication with this being went. He says that the Black Dragon is from the future, and it was a voice that came to Rita to make a deal. Golder is not sure if that is his true form, as he can change size at will, and he had never seen that. Then, Billy starts to analyze the monster's armor, and he can notice that on the neck of the monster's armor there is a gateway. Then, Billy asks a big question and tells Golder, how is it that they can see everything that is going on in the city while being prisoners? Golder tells him that he can control the dark dimension, because just because he is there doesn't mean he can't control it. He is only there because the Empress has punished him, and he respects that. Billy then asks him if he could leave or take someone else out, but Golder is a little surprised and angry at this question. Obviously, Billy uses his superior intelligence and begins to play with Golder's mind so that he can get him out of this dark dimension. Billy tells him that he is right, the Black Dragon is a robot that has an access entrance, and the best person to disable that robot is him. He then asks Golder to free him so that he can defeat the Black Dragon and Golder can return to Rita's side. Golder understands the reference and says that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Billy manages to convince Golder, so he opens a portal so that the Blue Ranger can leave the dark dimension and tells him not to make him regret this decision. In the city there is a heavy battle, and Tommy hears Billy's voice, who appears next to him. Tommy is very confused, but Billy tells him that it's a long story and begins to tell him about the access entrance that the Black Dragon has in his neck. They then both make a plan to teleport near that entrance, but Tommy is a little hesitant. Despite this, they both teleport near the neck of the monster and begin to open the door to gain access to the inside of the monster, since it is a machine like the Zords. Inside the monster, they realize they were right, and Billy starts looking for a power source to stop the battle. The Black Dragon continues to attack the Zords heavily, and because of this, Jason asks Tommy for help so he can better control the Black Dragon. Tommy replies that he and Billy are inside the Black Dragon and the Rangers are very confused by Billy's return. Meanwhile, we can see that Billy has found the power source and Tommy manages to destroy it. This causes the Black Dragon to fall and both Rangers must hold on to something inside this monster as it is going to be a hard fall. As the monster falls, it also changes size and slowly becomes smaller. The Black Dragon begins to shrink, and the Rangers begin to panic as they don't know what will happen. Tommy tries to teleport out of this machine, but apparently something is blocking his signal. Jason asks them to resist, but Tommy replies that they won't be able to resist, so he wants him to tell his mom that he loves her. At that moment, we can see that a green energy explosion begins until that explosion becomes gigantic and destroys part of the monster. The very worried Rangers start to move some parts in order to get inside the machine to look for Billy and Tommy. They all start to see everything inside that machine and Trini finds a part that she recognizes. She says that this part is from the Dragonzord. In the command center we can see that Rita is talking to the being that controlled the Black Dragon and tells her that the Rangers have recovered that body. This being replies that he was never in that machine and that the Black Dragon was only a small piece of his plan. Rita begins to claim to him since he made big promises and this being tells her that he is going to keep those promises. Then, he also tells her that Tommy and Billy were transported to another place, and he knows where they are now. Now we can see that this being is one of the most powerful villains we have ever seen, Lord Drakkon, a being from a parallel universe, who says that Tommy and Billy are now in his universe. Tommy and Billy wake up and begin to see that they are in another place which is very destroyed. They are both very worried as they do not know what is happening, but suddenly they see something that leaves them very scared. In this city there are two giant statues of Rita and the Green Ranger. This is the beginning of the story of one of the most powerful beings of the multiverse, Lord Drakkon. After the Rangers succeeded in destroying the Black Dragon, they didn't have to return to the pocket dimension, but because they were there so long, their parents thought they were lost. Now, the Rangers return home and tell their parents a lie to try to explain why they were missing for so long. Unfortunately, Billy and Tommy were unable to return as they were teleported to another universe. The police try to gather all the information to try to find them both, but the parents only know the lies told to them by the other Rangers. In the other universe we can see the giant statues of Rita and the Green Ranger, who seem to be the leaders of that world. At that moment, we begin to hear a voice that first welcomes all the people to the city, then says that the city is the capital of the new coalition of power and the final home of the Empress Rita Repulsa. He also says that she brought order and structure through the destruction of Zordon and his minions. He then says that the time is 8 p.m. and curfew is officially in effect. All citizens are to return to their homes immediately and by Lord Drakkon's order are urged to enjoy a pleasant evening. Tommy and Billy are very confused as to what is going on and begin to come up with theories as to the possible reasons. The theories are that maybe they are in an alternate timeline or maybe they are in the future of the same timeline. They also think that both theories may be correct, but they must be careful and not draw too much attention to themselves. This plan doesn't last long as at that very moment, a soldier stops them and starts to claim them for not following the curfew orders. This officer has a suit very similar to that of the Black Ranger, but with some differences and has a long gun with parts of Zack's gun. This officer asks them for identification, but Tommy tries to persuade him by telling him that they are not from that area and took the wrong train. Tommy asks the officer to just give them a warning and they will go their own way. The officer notices that Tommy has the Green Ranger dagger and quickly asks him about the dagger. The officer proceeds to arrest Tommy and asks them both to get on their knees, but Billy gives him a punch so they can both escape. The officer starts alerting all the other officers for help and the Rangers try to figure out the way since they know the town. They continue running and look for the school, but when they arrive at the place they find a big surprise. The school has been converted into a jail that bears the name Finster Memorial. Tommy and Billy are still very confused and want to find out everything that is going on, but the cops there waste no time. They start attacking the Rangers, who decide to jump into the water even though the fall is very dangerous. They both jump into the water and the guards say that they should alert Lord Drakkon of this event as he will want to know about it. Tommy and Billy make it out of the water and now plan to find out just how different that world is. In the main Ranger universe, in the Dark Dimension, Rita seeks answers from Golder about how Billy escaped. Golder obviously lies to Rita, telling her that Billy had a secondary teleportation device that the Black Dragon clearly couldn't find. He also tells her that he tried to stop him but couldn't because he was chained up. Rita doesn't know whether to believe him, but still proceeds to tell him about her plans. She says that the Black Dragon's involvement was helpful even though the crystal disappeared. Now they must attack the Rangers as their backs are against the wall and she has come to offer him another chance to redeem himself. Golder accepts this opportunity as that was what he was waiting for and that was the plan when he helped Billy escape. The other Rangers transported the remains of the Black Dragon to the Pocket Dimension to start investigating that whole machine and try to find out where Billy and Tommy are. At this moment, the only one who can do these investigations is Trini since she is the smartest one in that group and the only one who has worked with the Zords together with Billy. She says that she discovered that a person must be controlling the Black Dragon and she also discovered that the piece she is holding in her hand is identical to a piece of the Dragon Zord. Kimberly thinks that someone made a copy of the Dragon Zord, but Trini replies that it's not a copy, it's the exact same piece of the Dragon Zord, which is impossible. At that moment, the Rangers start talking about time travel and although at first, they think it's impossible, they realize that they lived through much weirder things than that. In Lord Drakkon's universe, Tommy and Billy find the command center, but they also find the worst nightmare they can imagine. All the Zords are destroyed, but they are Zords they don't know because they are the Thunder Zords. In the main universe these Rangers have not yet acquired the Thunder Zords, so this confuses them even more. Suddenly, the Rangers begin to hear a voice coming from underneath the command center. This voice can recognize Tommy and Billy, but more impressively, it also knows that they are not the Rangers of this universe. Tommy tries to ask his name, but the voice says he must go down to find out. Billy warns Tommy that this may be a trap, but he wants to find out who this voice is and feels confident because he knows them both. Billy stays upstairs, but Tommy comes down and the voice begins to guide him so he can find his way. Then, he finds a huge door that is locked and even though he thinks he won't be able to open it, this voice gives him the motivation to try. After so much effort, Tommy manages to open the door and cannot believe what he is seeing. This voice comes from a sword called Saba that Tommy did not know since he had not yet obtained the power of the White Ranger. Tommy can't believe that a sword can talk, but Saba tells him that this is obvious since she is the only sword that talks. Billy is still very worried and yells at Tommy that he is coming down too. At that moment, several ships arrive that are looking for the Rangers and Saba warns them that they must leave. Unfortunately, several officers surround them with guns pointed at them and the Rangers have no escape. One of the ships opens its doors and Lord Drakkon starts to come out, who begins to congratulate Tommy and Billy for having succeeded. He then welcomes them both to his world and says that this is a better world, but says that their time in that world is going to be short. Tommy recognizes that Lord Drakkon is the leader of this universe, so he tells him that he doesn't plan to kneel before him and then tells him that he doesn't know who he is dealing with. Lord Drakkon very calmly responds to Tommy by telling him that he does know who he is, since after all he is only an inferior version of himself. After Billy and Tommy travel to another universe and realize that everything was the same, but at the same time very different, they meet Lord Drakkon. A different version of the same Tommy Oliver, but with a greater power and as one of the leaders of that universe. Billy and Tommy were accompanied by Saba, a white tiger-headed sword that could talk, but it was much more than that and it was about to prove it. This is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book number 12. Lord Drakkon had told Tommy that he was an inferior version of himself, but Tommy very angrily replies that they are not the same. Interestingly, Lord Drakkon agrees with Tommy, and it is because he tells him, "I am better than you." Then, Drakkon gives the order to his guards to take the Rangers to the ship to lock them up and thinks that after a long time finally the sword Saba will be his. The sword responds by telling him that his plans are slightly different, and his eyes fill with a red energy. The earth begins to shake, and everything starts to move. No one knows what is happening and everyone is very scared. Lord Drakkon gives the order to silence the sword as it is calling a Zord. Then, there is a loud explosion, and everyone goes flying. The white tiger Zord has awakened, and Saba has the power to awaken this Zord. This is one of the Zords that the White Ranger uses, but the Tommy of this time had not yet met him, as he did not know the power of the White Ranger either. Lord Drakkon orders his guards to go to the ship to start shooting at the Zord to destroy it. Meanwhile, Saba asks the Rangers to follow him to lead them on to another path to help them escape. The Rangers don't know where they are going and Billy says that these Zords are destroyed, but Saba replies that sometimes looks can be deceiving. Saba had led them to the Falcon Zord, which was badly damaged, and the Rangers didn't know if it could fly. Despite this, Saba manages to awaken the Zord and then it begins to fly. In the main universe, the parents of the Rangers are speaking in front of many people to give a speech about their lost children. Obviously, the parents don't know what is going on and they think Billy and Tommy are lost. At Rita's new command center, she enters next to Golder and everyone else is excited by his arrival. Rita sits on her throne and tells Golder that he can now realize that the Black Dragon's efforts paid off. She also says that even though they couldn't keep the Zords, at least they managed to take the command center away from the Rangers and now Zordon is gone. In addition to this, Tommy and Billy are in the Black Dragon world and now the Rangers are weaker, so it's time to attack to keep applying pressure. Then, Finster presents his new project and says that it is the most ambitious so far, but it requires things that only Golder can give him. Golder is very confused and doesn't understand what they need from him. Rita responds with a smile, assuming Golder is very innocent, and tells him that she wants a better Golder. In the other universe, we can see that the Rangers are still traveling in the Falcon along with Saba, but then they land in a forest much further north. The Zord needs a full night's rest in order to recharge his energy since he was deactivated for so long. Saba tells the Rangers that he made sure this forest is part of the Coinless, a united resistance against Lord Drakkon, and they must join that resistance. Tommy stops Saba as he thinks they know nothing about this resistance and the sword wants them to join that group. Billy agrees with Tommy and tells Saba that they don't know anything about him either, or about the Falcon Zord. They don't even know anything about this universe. He also tells him that they are grateful to him for saving them from Lord Drakkon, but they still need a better explanation of everything that has happened. Saba agrees with Billy's request, so he tells the Rangers that he is going to tell them everything that happened, since he assumes that many things are the same in their universe, but there are things that are completely different. It all starts with the arrival of the Green Ranger. Just like in the other universe, Tommy got his powers in a different way than the other Rangers. Rita had given the Green Ranger powers to Tommy Oliver, but then Jason managed to destroy Rita's spell by destroying the sword Tommy had. At this point, Tommy could make decisions for himself, and in this universe, he chose to walk away from the Rangers. In this other universe, Rita took another approach. She said the world needed to be destroyed and then remade. Tommy chose to be loyal to Rita and help her in all her plans for world domination. Together they began to destroy cities, and the leaders gave up their power as some people supported Rita's actions. Every day more and more cities fell under the control of the Empress. They even normalized their rules and began to accept her rule. Due to all the support she received from the people, her power grew and she began to plan her last attack. Zordon's last hope was to create a new ranger, the most powerful ranger ever, and his powers came from all that was good in the world. Jason was the logical choice for him to use the powers of the white light, so the whole process began on the day everyone knows as the eve of the fall of the Rangers. On that day, allies arrived from other planets to form an army to protect the process. The war began and everyone was in that place to battle it out with every last drop of sweat. The Rangers had little time, so the process had to be accelerated, but unfortunately, they did not have enough time and the war caught up with them. The Green Ranger managed to get into the command center to stop the process. While the Rangers were losing the battle, Tommy and Jason were having the most legendary fight in history. Jason was using Saba to defend himself, but he couldn't get the White Ranger's powers. Tommy was giving him the opportunity to surrender and join Rita's army, but obviously Jason refused. Suddenly, everyone stopped the fight, and no one could believe what they were seeing. A new ranger had been created and another ranger had fallen. Tommy Oliver had joined the powers of the Green Ranger and the new power of the White Ranger to transform himself into a new ranger, and at that moment everyone witnessed the birth of Lord Drakkon. This was the beginning of the end of this universe. After having told all this story, Saba says that he was designed to be the White Ranger's sidekick, but since Jason fell, Zordon did everything he could to keep the sword from falling into Tommy's hands. Saba is Zordon's last sidekick and had been left in hibernation to be awakened only by someone pure. Saba tells them that they are both pure and that is why he was able to awaken, but despite this Tommy does not feel that way as he thinks he can become like Lord Drakkon. At that moment, they hear a voice, and an energy traps them. Trini and Aisha had arrived at that place. Apparently, they were very angry because the Rangers were in that place and for having woken up a Zord that was dead. In Rita's new command center, we can see that Finster has built an improved version of Golder using her body as an example to sculpt this new monster. Finster is impressed with Golder's great physique, but Golder gets mad at Finster because he thinks he can build a better monster. Rita interrupts the conversation and tells Golder that this is what collaboration is all about. Golder kneels to greet the Empress, but she asks him to stand up, so Finster doesn't make a mistake with the sculpture. Finster tells her that he already has everything in his memory and Golder gets angry because he feels he has been standing there for too long like a fool. Finster replies that he simply needed him for conversation as sculpting sometimes gets boring being alone. Rita tells Golder that if Finster needs him then he should stay there. Golder then doubts Rita's plan as he feels he could do it alone, but she tells him that she is going to give him an army that a warrior like him deserves. Finster runs out of the material he uses for sculpting and must go looking for more. He starts looking around and then apparently finds something very interesting. In the other universe, the Rangers are still tied up as the Coinless don't trust them. We already know that the man accompanying the Coinless is Bulk, who has a gun pointed at Tommy and Billy. The Coinless don't want to believe the version given by the Rangers. They even tell Saba that this is something Drakkon could do to send spies. They also begin to doubt Saba and says that possibly Drakkon could have built it up to say everything it has said so far. The Rangers want to prove that they are telling the truth, but the Coinless tell them that believing them is not up to them, and at that moment, Zack appears saying that it is up to him. Zack greets Saba and asks him to say the same thing he said to him the last time they spoke, so Saba tells him that he told him he would return one day with those who would save this world, and as promised, he has now returned. Zack decides to trust them, so he asks the others to release them and take them inside. Now we can see the inside of the Coinless base, and above you can see the Mastodon logo. There are many people living in this place and small makeshift rooms are seen everywhere. Zack tells the Rangers to go shower and get ready as they have a lot to do. Trini is still wary of all this, but Zack tells her that he has decided to trust Saba, and after all this time they need her to be right. Billy then tries to ask Trini if she is okay, but she replies a bit distantly and tells him that she is not the same Trini he knows. At Lord Drakkon's command center, the soldiers are giving the report that they have failed to find the Rangers, but Drakkon replies that it doesn't matter since he knows where they went. He then begins to complain to his main guard as his team allowed the Rangers to escape and he will not tolerate that level of ineptitude. Because of this, he revokes his powers and appoints another new officer to hand over those powers to him. For the first time we get to see Scorpina after the Black Dragon arrived, and now, we understand that she did not die, but teleported into Lord Drakkon's universe. She tries to treat Lord Drakkon as if he is just like Tommy Oliver, but he threatens her not to compare him anymore. He also tells her that he will keep trying to find a way to bring her back to his universe, and they will also help the Rita of that universe to conquer everything as they did here. Lord Drakkon already suspects that the Rangers joined the Coinless, so he feels that they will soon be able to destroy all their enemies at once. Now we get to see the huge army Lord Drakkon has, and then we see that Skull is inside that army as an infiltrator. Skull manages to hear that there is a rumor that Lord Drakkon supposedly found the Coinless, so now he must try to inform Bulk about this news. In the main universe, Trini is still looking for a way to use the leftover parts of the Black Dragon to find something to help her with the search for Tommy and Billy. Kimberly arrives to try to distract Trini a bit so she can take a break since she's been searching for so long, but she tells Kimberly that she's not going to stop for now. Jason and Zack are fighting for practice, but Zack asks Jason for a short break as he feels Jason is unstoppable. Here we can see that the Rangers are still using the Green Ranger power as they have not been able to access their original powers yet. Jason tells Kimberly that this is the way for them to deal with the stress and at the same time stay in good shape for what may come. Jason then tries to blame himself for everything that is going on and feels that he was not a good leader, but Kimberly replies that there is no manual for how to deal with everything that happened. Then they both start talking about the possible relationship she and Tommy may have, but she doesn't know if starting that relationship was too stupid with everything that has happened. Jason tries to give her words of motivation and Kimberly tells him that's why he's the leader. Just then the Rangers hear Alpha 5's voice saying he has news. He then tells them that he has found a weakness in Rita's command center and there is a way for them to retake the command center to regain their powers. In the other universe, Billy has found a photograph of the Blue Ranger from that universe in which he reflects that he has passed away. He then begins to ask Trini about how that death happened and she tells him that Billy died a hero because he saved her life. Zack begins to tell Tommy everything that happened to Lord Drakkon and tells him that he took on the Rangers one by one, but in the end, they couldn't hold out long enough. Drakkon took all the coins of power from him, but Zack managed to kick Drakkon to take away his sword, and at that moment is when Saba told him that he was going to come back someday with those who would save this world. Zack and Tommy continue talking, but Bulk interrupts them to give them the news that Lord Drakkon already knows everything and is planning an attack. Zack then tells him that it's too late because the ships are already there. In the main universe, the Rangers are still listening to the plan that Alpha 5 has, and Jason tries to summarize everything to give orders to the other Rangers. He also says that they're going to take back the base, but they're also going to take back Billy's coin, which the Black Dragon had taken from him to use as energy to control the Zords. Alpha says he's very excited, but then we see that it's not really Alpha talking. Finster has reprogrammed the robot's head to send a message to the Rangers. This was what Finster had found when he went to get the sculpting material, and with this plan they could lure the Rangers to the new base to destroy them with Golder's new army. The Rangers are already inside Rita's new command center, guided by Alpha 5's voice, not knowing that it is actually Finster who is using the robot head to communicate with the Rangers and lead them into a trap. Because of this, the Rangers are very confident. They even tell Alpha that if the plan doesn't work then they won't be able to get out of there, and this is obviously exactly what Rita wants. Finster and Rita try to use words that Alpha would commonly use to make the Rangers feel confident, and it is working for them. Alpha tells them that he is very excited to see them, but they are possibly not that excited, and that is because the Rangers have already arrived at the trap. Golder's new army was waiting for them, and we can see that they are many monsters just like Golder, but with some differences. These monsters created by Finster using Golder's anatomy are improved, and you can see that they are all bigger. Previously, Golder has caused a lot of problems for the Rangers, so imagine the problem the Rangers have now with all these giant copies of Golder. In the other universe the war had just started and all of Lord Drakkon's soldiers arrived to attack the Coinless group. Some soldiers try to destroy the invisible force field, while Zack tries to start organizing the whole operation to try to defend against Lord Drakkon's troops. The soldiers already managed to breach the force field, so Trini asks Billy to go to the shield generator to get it working again, as that breach may continue to grow and the soldiers would manage to get the war tanks in. Billy is surprised as the Coinless didn't trust him and Tommy, but he is still willing to help. Some guns have been damaged, and they must go to reset them, but the road to those guns is filled with Drakkon soldiers. Tommy offers to go reset the weapons and has a plan that includes Saba, so Zack gives him permission to go. In the main universe, the Rangers start the battle with the clones, and no matter what they do, more and more clones keep appearing. The Rangers are confused and Finster tries to explain to them through Alpha's voice. He tells them that these clones have all Golder's abilities but have none of the flaws. The Rangers try to play with Golder's mind by saying that they don't know if he agrees to this plan, but Golder tells them that he serves his Empress however she wants. Because they are monsters created by Finster, the Rangers think they can easily destroy them, but unfortunately, the monsters repair all the damage done and the Rangers no longer know what to do. Fortunately, Kimberly has an idea and asks Zack to help her destroy the roof of the place to escape through that part. The rocks crush several clones, so the Rangers have a chance to escape, but Rita already had a plan for this. Outside that place there were more clones, but these clones were giants, so the Rangers need the Zords to be able to fight them. In the other universe, Drakkon's soldiers are still trying to get into the coinless shelter, but Zack, along with several people, start shooting at them so they can't get through. Zack tries to give words of motivation to his soldiers so that they do not give up and fight for their home. The battle is very difficult, both groups are attacking hard and do not want to give up. Unfortunately, Drakkon's soldiers are winning the battle, but Zack doesn't give up and keeps trying to motivate his soldiers. Then, he is surprised as someone unexpected appears. Scorpina arrived with several soldiers dressed as the Red Ranger and tells Zack that he doesn't have the victory in his hands. Elsewhere is Tommy along with other soldiers to try to get to the damaged weapons to reset them, but they are attacked by Drakkon's ships. Tommy asks Saba to execute the plan they had agreed upon, and Saba tells him that it was already there. Saba was referring to the Falcon Zord, which appeared to attack Drakkon's ships, and then Tommy entered the Zord to begin his attack. Billy and Trini are still at the force field generator trying to repair it, but both are worried as everything is too damaged and the shield is not going to be as strong. They must think of another solution, and Trini mentions that they must continue to protect the relic. Billy wants to know what the relic is, and Trini shows him the Blue Ranger Morpher. She tells him that the Billy from that universe saved her and also gave him the Morpher to protect him from Lord Drakkon. The Rangers think that, if Lord Drakkon gets this Morpher, then all hope is going to end. In the main universe, the Rangers are already inside their Zords ready to start the battle with the giant clones. The battle begins and we can see that these clones are very wild. In their thoughts there is only destruction, and that is what they want to do with the Rangers. One of these clones throws itself towards the Yellow Ranger's Zord and wants to destroy it. This monster manages to destroy part of the Zord, and this causes Trini to fall out of the machine. The other clones manage to catch Trini, and Rita gives the order to take her to her. In the other universe, Tommy is still battling Drakkon's ships with the Falcon Zord and is apparently managing to destroy many enemy ships. Bulk is leading the other soldiers to the weapons to reset them, but at that moment other Drakkon soldiers appear dressed as the Pink Ranger and have long-range weapons. Lord Drakkon is on top of one of his ships preparing to jump on top of Tommy's Zord, and after he achieves his objective, he breaks the entrance hatch. Lord Drakkon manages to enter the Falcon Zord and greets Tommy in a very sarcastic way. All this causes the ships to shoot down the Zord, and it seems that Drakkon was able to easily overpower Tommy. Drakkon throws him out of the Zord and Saba starts screaming his name in great concern, but Drakkon tells him to shut up because they both belong to him. Now Lord Drakkon has the Green Ranger dagger, and he also has Saba, two very powerful weapons controlled by one of the most powerful Rangers in history. In the main universe, Rita has Trini, who seems to be very exhausted, but Rita apparently has a plan for her. The Empress tells the Yellow Ranger, who is still using the Green Ranger's coin powers, that she is a ranger ready for rescue, but not to worry since it's almost over. In the other universe, Tommy is on his knees and Lord Drakkon has Saba to begin the punishment. He then says he sentences Tommy to die, but he's going to give all the coinless who surrender and swear loyalty to him a chance. He also asks them to give him the relic, which we already know is the Blue Ranger Morpher. Trini and Billy are in hiding trying to protect the Blue Ranger Morpher. Trini tells Billy that he can use the Morpher to transform himself so he can face Lord Drakkon. Despite this, Billy thinks he's not going to be able to do that, but Trini keeps insisting and she tries to motivate him, but apparently, it's not working. Drakkon shouts that this is the last chance, while Saba keeps pleading not to do it. At that moment, Trini and Billy appear, both of whom have the Morpher, yell for him to stop and they both give in to Drakkon. When the Black Dragon arrived, it caused a huge explosion which destroyed the command center as well as Zordon and Alpha 5. At that time, we thought it had also destroyed Scorpina, but in reality, she was transported to the other universe where Lord Drakkon is the leader. This happened because the explosion was not something common, but it was the door to a portal that connects to the multiverse. This is why the universe we know is different from Lord Drakkon's universe, and this explosion was the first door that connected these two universes. This was triggered by the Rita of the main universe we know and Lord Drakkon, who comes from the other universe, in order to send the Black Dragon into the main universe. We all know that the Black Dragon was controlled by Lord Drakkon from the other universe, and this was to destroy the Rangers of the main universe. When the explosion happened, Zordon was destroyed, or at least that's what everyone thought, but in reality, he was wandering through time. The Zordon of the main universe begins to think about everything he is experiencing in this journey through time and space. He begins to question whether being able to see the events of the past is a gift or a curse by not being able to intervene in what is happening. Life is full of if-onlys, as regret is a natural part of life, even if you live outside of time. When this explosion happens, Zordon begins to travel through time, and although he knows he has been in a physical world, he also understands that he lives in a time tunnel, but this situation is completely different. Now, he is not outside of time, but in between it, specifically between two timelines. The portal that opened did not destroy him, but it did not completely push him into the other universe either. Because of this, Zordon now has the opportunity to be able to see everything that has happened over the years in that other universe and wants to know how this Dark Ranger came to be. In these first images we can see how Lord Drakkon was controlling the Black Dragon from his universe and was threatening the Rangers of the main universe. Zordon is seeing things that he had not seen as he had supposedly been destroyed by the explosion at the time. We can see that he has two timelines, a purple one and a blue one, which he can touch in order to see what has happened in that universe. The purple one is from the main universe and the blue one is from Lord Drakkon's universe, so now Zordon starts to open that timeline to find out what Drakkon's beginning was like. The events begin after Jason destroyed the sword that had Rita's spell on it, but in this universe, weeks had passed, and Tommy had not returned to join the Rangers. The Zordon of this universe obviously does not know that the Zordon of the main universe is watching these events. This Zordon from this other universe is full of hope and thinks that Tommy is going to be able to overcome the influence Rita has on him, since good always overcomes evil. The Zordon from the main universe hears those words and feels he was wrong as things began to change. Tommy Oliver bowed to Rita and joined her to form an army to destroy the Rangers. Zordon keeps looking at all these events through the timeline window and feels very sad about what Tommy from that universe did. In that other universe, Zordon still had hope that there was good in Tommy, but despite this he had to continue to help the Rangers in the great battle. Because of this, he sought out new Zords and new allies, which were also being destroyed by Tommy. One of these allies was Ninja, who created Saba together with the Zords of the White Light Power. The more the Zordon of the main universe saw the events of this other universe, the more he believed that this Tommy was not worth believing in. This was the day Tommy had defeated Jason and combined his Green Ranger powers with the new White Light powers. This one took over Saba, which was telling Tommy that he was wrong, but Tommy told the saber that it could only speak on his command. He then told Zordon that he was giving him one last chance to surrender and swear allegiance to him, otherwise he was going to finish him off. Tommy had poisoned Zordon chronologically, meaning he had poisoned him through time and space using some kind of magic. In this way he is going to detach Zordon from time and space so that he can die alone in the void. Zordon tells him, "There is still good in you, Tommy, you don't have to do this." Drakkon gets very angry and tells him that his name is not Tommy, then launches his power at Zordon. This causes Zordon to detach from time and space, sending him somewhere else to die. What Drakkon didn't know was that in that same place was the other Zordon from the main universe, and they both met there. They are both confused, but quickly understand the situation and begin to talk about everything that Zordon from the main universe has seen from the other universe. This Zordon from the main universe says he doesn't know what to think about everything he's seen since in his world Tommy Oliver joined the Power Rangers. The other Zordon says that's excellent, but then starts to take his last breaths. Zordon from the main universe asks him if he wants to say anything, but the other Zordon just tells him that he simply doesn't regret anything. Zordon from the main universe does not understand this, as he thinks that believing in Tommy ruined everything in that other universe. The other Zordon with his dying breaths says that sometimes things don't turn out the way we want them to, but he believes that good will triumph over evil in the end, even if it's not the way we initially believed. He then tells him that everything that has happened in his world has brought him here and apparently will bring others from the main universe into his universe as well. At the end he advises Zordon from the main universe to continue to have faith in the Power Rangers and to also remain true to his beliefs, as there is nobility in them, even when they don't produce the outcome he expects. He then takes his leave and explodes in an explosion of light that engulfs everything around him. In this way, Zordon of the main universe was able to see his own death, even though he was the Zordon of another universe. Then, Zordon from the main universe begins to lose the effects of the portal that brought him to that place and begins to drift away from the timelines. At the same time, he begins to hear a voice calling his name. This voice came from Saba, who was using her connection to the grid to keep Zordon in that plane of space-time, and that is why he returned near the timelines of both universes. At first Saba thought that this was the Zordon from her universe, but then she realizes that this was a different Zordon. Saba feels guilty for not arriving in time to save the Zordon she knows, but this other Zordon tells her that they can still save her universe. He tells him that in the future Rangers from his universe will arrive in the other universe, including another Tommy Oliver. Saba says that, if Zordon trusts this other Tommy, then he's going to trust him too. We then get to witness what Zack had narrated, the event when Lord Drakkon took his morpher from him, but he was able to kick it away and saved Saba. At that point, the Saber begins to tell Zack that he is leaving, but that someday he is going to return with those who will save the world. What Zack didn't know is that this was a message from the Zordon of the main universe who was using Saba to send him that message. After this, Zack would spend several years building defenses and fighting Lord Drakkon. Saba would go into hiding until the day Billy and Tommy arrived to give the world a new hope. At that time, Zordon learns that sometimes, if only, doesn't always mean something good. Earlier, Lord Drakkon was about to take Tommy's life, but Billy arrived to surrender and give him the Blue Ranger's morpher. Before he surrenders, Billy wants to tell Drakkon some things, and at the same time we start to see that in the main universe Rita has Trini captured. Rita starts to tell him that he should accept the fact that it is the end for her and all her friends so that everything will be easier. In the other universe, Billy starts explaining to Drakkon that he was there when the Black Dragon started altering the Rangers' powers. He also tells him that the only way Drakkon could have altered the Ranger's powers was by using a crystal from the Morphin grid. In the other universe, Rita continues to try to discourage Trini by telling her that her Goldars are going to destroy everything. She tells her that the Goldars are going to pull the Rangers out of their Zords and will be brought before her as the weaklings they are. Rita wants to force Trini to watch her destroy the Rangers while she watches everything. The witch tells her that this is her last chance to pledge her allegiance and surrender her coin of power. In the other universe, Billy goes on to explain to Lord Drakkon that he realized that this universe's Trini used the same technology as the Black Dragon to build the shield generators. So, he realized that he could use this technology to do the same thing Lord Drakkon did with the Black Dragon. In the main universe, Trini starts attacking the Goldars and tells Rita that the thing that blocks the Rangers' teleportation only works on them, but apparently doesn't work on other things. The Trini from the other universe tries to explain everything Billy said and tells Lord Drakkon that he did them a favor by allowing them to get close. She then uses the Blue Ranger's Morpher to attack Lord Drakkon with all the energy Billy could use as the Black Dragon did. This energy is so powerful that it reaches Lord Drakkon and all the soldiers that were around him. Meanwhile, in the main universe, Trini manages to teleport all the armor of the Black Dragon and begins to use it. She reprogrammed that armor to sync with her in case of an emergency like this and asks Rita, who's the weak one now. Trini uses the armor to defend herself. Rita begins to despair and asks Finster to grow any monsters. Trini seizes the time and searches for the Blue Ranger's power coin, which was still in Rita's command center. With the technology of the Black Dragon's armor, she begins to energize the Blue Ranger's coin, and with this she manages to restore the powers to all the Rangers. Now, the Rangers also have control of the Blue Ranger's Zord, so Jason asks everyone to begin the Megazord transformation. Now all the Rangers have their powers back, their colors, and the Megazord is ready for battle. Rita then tries to belittle everything Trini has done by telling her that she didn't do anything important since after living thousands of years she has seen Zordon's soldiers fall before her. Trini challenges Rita to a battle, but Rita tells her that she will accept the challenge another time and then disappears. At that moment, Trini wants to tell the other Rangers what had just happened, but suddenly she receives an important alert. The Rangers continue to destroy the giant Goldars using the Megazord, but in the command center there was still a normal-sized Golder clone. This clone began to taunt the original Golder by saying that Rita wanted to replace him, but then the original Golder becomes enraged and destroys the last remaining clone. At that point, the Rangers also destroy the last remaining clone of the giant Goldars, and then Trini calls the Rangers to see something very important. She noticed on the Black Dragon's sensors a giant wave of grid energy coming from the Blue Ranger's coin from the other universe. The Rangers think it might be Billy, but they are not sure about this, and Trini says they can use the Black Dragon to open a portal even though the dimensional fields are still weak. What she doesn't know is how long the open portal will last, nor how stable it will be, but it's the best chance they must find Billy and Tommy. In the other universe, Lord Drakkon has lost his powers, Tommy now has Saba, and the Rangers tell Drakkon it's his turn to surrender. Then, Drakkon's army tanks start attacking the Rangers, and they are furious that those soldiers were out of range of the initial attack. Despite this, Zack says that it doesn't matter and now it's time to attack. The battle between the two armies begins, but there is another battle about to begin as well. Drakkon and Tommy are facing each other, ready to fight, but first Drakkon starts trying to persuade Tommy with words. He tries to provoke Tommy by telling him that he needed his friends in order to defeat his dark version, but Tommy tells him that he's not going to provoke him. Drakkon then tells him that he can't prove his worth if he can't even beat him, and this angers Tommy, who starts attacking Drakkon. Then, Tommy tells him that he admits he needed his friends to get there, but that's fine with him. Drakkon tells him that they are not a source of strength, they are a burden, because when he is going to need them, they are not going to be there. Tommy then responds by saying that his friends don't need to be there to be a source of strength for him, because when he feels that darkness, he remembers that they trust him, that they believe in him, and he believes in them. At that moment, the unexpected happens, a portal opens and the Rangers from the main universe arrive in this other universe to help in the battle. Tommy uses the moment to remind Drakkon that his friends do arrive when he needs them. Jason tells the Rangers that they must shoot down the tanks if they want to win the battle, but Bulk managed to activate the weapons and destroyed the tanks. Tommy says that confidence and hope need more determination to believe than paranoia and fear. He also tells Drakkon that maybe all those people are afraid of him, but they are not loyal to him and do not respect him. Drakkon then responds by saying that faith in his friends will be his undoing. They were there today, but they won't be there the day he needs them the most. Tommy tells him that's a very depressing way of looking at things, and it's clearly not today's winning argument. Drakkon tells him that maybe it isn't, but today is just one day, and after these words he launches himself into the void. Drakkon's army is losing the battle, so Scorpina tells them they must escape. Then, the Rangers from both universes come face to face, and this is quite strange for everyone as they are seeing a version of themselves from different times. Trini and Billy from the main universe begin to talk about everything they had done, while Jason and Kimberly hug Zack from the other universe, since he had not seen the version of them from this universe for several years. Then, the Rangers say goodbye and quickly use the portal they had opened to return to the main universe, but they did not realize that the same energy dragged Lord Drakkon's body with them. The Rangers arrive at the command center, which was destroyed, and Saba begins to explain that she managed to become a link to Zordon. He then projects Zordon's image and tells the Rangers that when they build a tube, they can then redirect Zordon there. Elsewhere in this same universe, Drakkon wakes up injured and confused, while some helicopters and soldiers surround him. Lord Drakkon's story is not over yet. This is the beginning of the Promethea saga, starting in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book number 17. Bulk and Skull are doing a filming of their show to report all about the Power Rangers, and are explaining that even though many think that no one has seen the Rangers after the event with the Dragonzord, they have actually appeared. They report that, despite this incident, the Rangers have a lot of fans and support. Among these people is Grace Sterling. She is a futuristic entrepreneur who has a company called Promethea, which is dedicated to creating technology, but for now they have been helping to rebuild the city after all the Zord's battles with Rita's monsters. In a TV interview, Grace explains that now that Rita is not attacking the city, it has given Promethea time to focus on all the new developments they have been creating. The Power Rangers saved the world, and now Grace wants to make it a better place. We then see that Kimberly and Trini are on another planet. Apparently, they are trying to escape and are carrying something in their hand. This escape is very dangerous as they are being shot at by laser beams, and it is possible that whatever they are carrying in that bag is something very important. Then we see the monsters that are shooting at them, and the leader of these creatures is called Zosma. They are all attacking with everything they have, while the Rangers ask Jason to help them find a way out since he is in the command center and is the one controlling the mission from there. Jason tells them that they must go to the edge of the city for the teleportation to work and asks Alpha 5, who is controlling the Pink Ranger's Zord, to look for them in that part of the city to get them out of there. On Earth are the other Rangers trying to stop a tornado using the Zords, but at the same time they are trying to get all the people out of that place. Jason is also helping them with that mission, so he is trying to run 2 missions at the same time on 2 different planets. Meanwhile, on planet Tarmac 4, Kimberly and Trini tell Jason that that place is like a maze, so they need a way out, and Jason gives them instructions on how to get out of there. On Earth, Tommy, Billy, and Zach are still trying to save people from the tornado, but apparently, it's a very complicated mission. Jason asks Billy to tell them the way they can stop the tornado, and he tells the Rangers that they should freeze the air directly in the tornado's path. Zach prepares his Zord since he can freeze the air with it, but it must be anchored firmly to the ground, so the tornado won't blow it away. Jason tries to warn Kimberly and Trini of an explosion, but he is too late, and the Rangers almost lose their lives. Zach begins to feel the strong winds from the tornado and doesn't know how long he can withstand the winds. Jason asks Zach to hold on and at the same time tells Alpha that Kimberly and Trini need an emergency evacuation now. The creatures from planet Tarmac are about to engage the Rangers, and Zach keeps trying to freeze the air from the tornado, but the winds are too strong. Jason keeps asking Zach to resist and then gives the order to Alpha to help the Rangers. The Rangers begin to fight the creatures on the planet, and at that moment Alpha arrives to help them. Zach was also able to stop the tornado by freezing all the air, and then Kimberly and Trini grabbed onto the pterodactyl to escape. These have been 2 very complicated missions, but the Rangers let Jason know that they are all okay, and, in the meantime, he is relieved at the command center. Jason has had to fulfill Zordon's role while he is gone, so this is very stressful for everyone. Now, all the Rangers gather in the command center to talk about the missions, and Trini begins to explain what they were doing on that planet. She and Kimberly were in search of Zordon's staff, which the creatures from that other planet had stolen, and now the Rangers got it back. Zosma was obviously not happy that something was stolen from him, but the Rangers know that it did not belong to him. Using this staff, now Saba along with Alpha can bring Zordon back, as the sword has maintained a link to Zordon through the Morphin grid. They needed a physical link to him, and Zordon's genetics are in his staff. Kimberly thought they would be back to normal, but Zach tells her that now that Rita is gone, they've been able to help people instead of having to fight monsters, so that's better than normal. Saba and Alpha congratulate the Rangers on all the good work they've accomplished and ask him to give them time to work on Zordon's return. Now the Rangers have a day off after a long time, and everyone has their own plans. Jason offers them to train in the pocket dimension, but Zach says he has a family matter. Tommy and Billy are going to the gym, and Kimberly and Trini are going to be at home. Jason decides to stay at the command center to keep scanning the news for any dangers the Rangers need, so they all leave, and Jason is left alone. There is a lot of news all over the world, and at the same time Jason also scans Rita's palace on the moon. Apparently, all this work has Jason very stressed, and the other Rangers start to notice. Since Billy and Tommy were in the coinless world, they are now closer and both train hard to the point of exhaustion. Despite this, they both feel that Lord Drakkon and the otherworldly Billy would have tried harder training, so they go back to training again. Kimberly is having a conversation with her mother about the fights she has with her father, and she thinks they can work everything out. Although Kimberly thinks that the problem is very simple to solve, her mother tells her that she can go back to talking to Matthew, and this makes her very angry. Meanwhile, Trini searches through her to-read list and starts reading Grace Sterling's autobiography. At the same time, she is watching TV, but despite all this she is very bored and receives a call from Kimberly to ask her out. The two sit down in the pterodactyl to talk and realize that they are having a very relaxing time. They try to understand the life they lead, as it is difficult to return to normal after having had missions traveling to other planets and other dimensions. They also talk about what is happening to Jason, as Kimberly thinks he is very serious, but Trini feels he has always been that way. Zack returns to the command center and finds Jason asleep, so he advises him to go get some rest. At that moment, they receive an alert about an earthquake in Dubai, and people are afraid that a very famous big building there may collapse. Jason calls the Rangers to get ready to go and help in this earthquake, and then we can see that they use the Megazord and the Dragonzord to hold the building. It is because of these types of situations that Jason has not been able to detach himself from the command center, as he feels that these things can happen at any time. The Rangers celebrate victory for preventing the destruction of the building, but receive a message from Grace Sterling telling them that their downtime is about to end, as she wants to have a very serious conversation with them. Grace Sterling, the owner of Promethea, meets the Rangers as she gets off a helicopter and tells them that she needs to talk something urgent with them. She also says that since she was in Dubai, it occurred to her that she could take the opportunity to talk to them in person since they were in that very place. She then explains to them that there are two airline pilots who got lost near a place that is hidden due to a dense fog, and they have not been able to get communication with them. That strange place does not appear on any map and seems to be invisible to the naked eye. Billy says that the fog is like an illusion to deceive, and then Grace shows them that there are strange creatures in that place, but the Rangers manage to identify that one of those creatures is Finster. This is why Grace wanted to inform the Rangers, as she thinks that this situation is not at the level of the government and the Rangers are the most suitable to take care of everything. After this conversation, the Rangers decide to teleport to this strange place and discover that all the architecture is a combination of the 18th century and the medieval era. Another very peculiar detail is that even though all the architecture is very old, everything looks as if it is new, and this increases the curiosity of the Rangers. Another thing that the Rangers discover is that the place seems to be empty, and that it is almost impossible that any other person could reach that place, but they are also sure where Finster must be. Suddenly, two men appear and ask the Rangers if they are also coming to see the Master. The Rangers are not sure what is going on, but they allow the two men to take them to another location so they can find out what is going on. When they arrive at the location, the Rangers can see that there are many people who seem to be waiting for someone, and those same people are surprised by the arrival of the Rangers. At that moment, Zack tells the people that they promised to help them, but Finster interrupts him, saying that his villagers don't need any help because they are already perfect. After this, Finster welcomes the Rangers and tells them that he assumes they are here because of the Promethea pilots. The Rangers ask Finster about where Rita is, but he tells them that he has no idea where she is, and now he has some time to focus on his own art. At that point, the people in that place start to transform into putty patrollers, and apparently this is the art Finster was referring to. The Rangers begin to fight, but quickly realize that there are too many enemies, and they have to find a way to destroy many at the same time, so they decide to unite all the weapons to get the power cannon. This is an epic moment. The Rangers fire this great power and manage to destroy many enemies at the same time. There are a lot of putty patrollers blowing up everywhere, but Finster still has another plan up his sleeve. The two men who have been looking for the Rangers are actually two monsters in the shape of an armadillo and a boar. These two monsters go to join the fight, but Tommy tells Jason that they both need to get into the castle to look for the pilots, and Trini tells them that they can leave since the team can handle the other remaining enemies. Both Rangers manage to enter the castle and quickly find the two pilots who were locked in a cell. Despite having found them, the Rangers have doubts as they are afraid that these two humans are not real due to the fact that Finster now knows how to create humans. The pilots plead with the Rangers to help them and tell them that they are real. Outside the castle, the Rangers continue in battle, and the boar monster says that he is the best wizard pig ever created. We can also see that this monster is carrying a staff that has a green stone on it, and apparently, that is what gives him power. Inside the castle, Jason and Tommy decide to free the pilots, who confess to the Rangers that Finster tortured them and was studying them to create his art, so because of this, Grace was looking for Finster. The Rangers are surprised to hear this, but at that moment Finster appears with a strange gun and shoots them all. Outside the castle, the wizard monster decides to launch an attack to freeze the Rangers, but Trini manages to deflect it and the attack is received by the other monster. After this, the Rangers realize that the power comes from the staff, so Kimberly throws an arrow at it to take it away and Zack shoots it with the power axe. In this way, the Rangers manage to defeat all the enemies outside the castle, but they can't imagine what's inside. Jason and Tommy are trapped along with the pilots in what appears to be a mass that has turned into a hard rock, while Finster begins to show them everything he has been doing. Finster spent a long time trying to create creatures disguised as humans, but since humans are very complex, it became very difficult for him to finish his project. While Finster is talking, Jason tries to reach for his blaster so he can destroy the rock until he succeeds. Jason destroys everything in order to free them, and at that moment the other Rangers also arrive, so Finster has no choice but to surrender. Grace manages to get to that strange place with part of her team, and after thanking the Rangers, she tells them that maybe she can turn that place into a refugee center. Jason then tells Grace that the pilots had said she was looking for Finster, and she clarifies that they weren't looking for Finster exactly, they just had information that a lieutenant of Rita's might still be on Earth, so they started looking. Grace takes advantage of the moment to extend an invitation to the Rangers to be part of their team, since with all the reach she has in the world, she can tip off the Rangers so they can solve other situations like these. Even though this seems like a great offer, Jason decides to turn it down and tells Grace that the Rangers are independent, plus it's not a good idea to include civilians in this. Still, Grace tells him that the invitation will always be open, and after that the Rangers say goodbye. At the command center, the Rangers use a pocket dimension so Alpha and Saba can work on trying to bring Zordon back. In the same place they hold Finster as a prisoner, who tries to persuade Saba and Alpha, but Saba orders him to shut up. Outside the pocket dimension, Jason returns to his guard post, and Zack is concerned about Jason's health. Because of this, he tells the Red Ranger that they should take Grace up on her offer since he can't keep trying to do everything. Despite this, Jason doesn't want to listen and is still hopeful that Zordon will return, which is why he doesn't want to work with Grace. Zack continues to insist that they should consider Grace's offer because, if Zordon doesn't return, then all of Promethea's technology will help them find hidden missions like it did with Finster. At that moment, the alarm sounds and both Rangers begin to see on the screen the news about a monster that started as a human and then transformed. With this, the Rangers confirm that there must be more of Finster's creatures, and it will be very difficult to find them since they won't know if they are real humans or disguised monsters. In Spain, there is a man walking quietly down the street, and all around there are many people as they are in a very populated city. Suddenly, This man says that the time has come for them to meet his nightmare, and he starts to transform into a horrible monster that is a combination between a sloth and a bear. These combinations between animals are very important, as this may depend on the powers and attacks used by the beast. The new monster begins to destroy the entire city, and people try to run for their lives. In a coffee shop in Angel Grove is Kimberly having breakfast with her father, and she tells him that she senses something is going on, as it doesn't seem like a casual breakfast. Her father confesses to her that this is true and that he simply wanted to meet with her to give her the good news that he is marrying his new bride. In past stories we had already seen that Kimberly's parents had a lot of marital problems and were always fighting, so apparently, they were already divorced. Kimberly didn't take the news about her father's remarriage very well, and even though she told him that she was happy, she doesn't really seem to be. At the same place Tommy shows up, and Kimberly's father understands that there is some kind of relationship between Tommy and Kimberly. Because of this, he invites Tommy to sit with them, but it is noticed that Tommy is a little shy. This is why Tommy declines Mr. Hart's invitation, and at that moment, Tommy and Kimberly's communicators ring, but Kim's father thinks it's cute that their watches sound the same. Earlier Billy and Tommy had spent several days on Drakkon's world, and their parents thought they were lost. When the Rangers returned from that other dimension, they teleported under a place to make people think they were trapped all those days, and the firemen were able to get them out. All that rescue had been recorded on video, and now Billy's mother is watching that video again as she can't stop remembering that horrible moment. Because of this, she is excessively worried about Billy and always gets nervous when he has to leave for somewhere. In this occasion Billy had to go out to exercise with Trini, and after having told her everything that is happening with his mother, Trini tells him that it is quite normal after he is supposed to have been lost for several days. Billy hopes that his parents can relax as he is feeling a bit pressured, but at that moment their communicators ring. Kimberly, Tommy, Billy, and Trini teleport to Spain, where the new monster was and where Jason and Zach were already there. Jason warns the Rangers that this monster started out as a human and then transformed, but there is another monster somewhere else. Billy asks about the whereabouts of the other monster, and Alpha tells him it's in Toronto, so Jason asks Tommy, Kimberly, and Trini to take care of it. They quickly teleport to Toronto, but this new monster greets them with an electric shock. This new monster has parts of a raven and parts of an electrical system, but the worst part is that Finster had already warned him that someday the Rangers would arrive. In Spain, the other Rangers begin the battle with the other monster, but they quickly begin to see what the powers of this beast are. The first attack is when the monster launches a car at them, but the Rangers are almost unable to dodge it because for some reason the monster takes away their speed. The monster had been launching an attack that made the Rangers super slow, so if they can't move, then they can't dodge the blows. The beast takes advantage of this opportunity, and after hitting the Rangers hard, it starts throwing things at the civilians that were around that place. In Toronto, the other Rangers continue to fight against the Crow, but they quickly realize that this monster is very powerful as no attack works. In Spain, the Rangers keep trying to attack the Sloth, but they are so slow in their movements that the monster can move their bodies as it wants. Because of this, Jason tries to attack with his sword, but the monster moves Jason's body close to Zach so that the sword is stuck in the Black Ranger's neck. Fortunately, Billy blasts Zach with the blaster so he can move them and then apologizes to both of them for doing that. Apparently, Zach's blaster shot worked for him as he now has a great idea and asks the other Rangers who are in Toronto to tell him when the Raven starts charging up with energy. Kimberly informs him that right now it is starting to charge so impressively that it looks like it will try to destroy the entire city. Since the Rangers in Spain can't move fast, Zack's idea was to teleport behind the monster to hold it down and then teleport back to Toronto along with the monster. This way all the electric attack of the crow was received by the sloth, and due to this great attack, the monster explodes. Now there is only one left, and all the Rangers gather with their weapons to attack it. Because the crow launched a very powerful attack, it now needs to recharge again, and the Rangers take this opportunity to attack it all together. In this manner they destroy the Raven, and now both cities are safe thanks to the Power Rangers. At the command center, the Rangers start interrogating Finster and ask him about how many monsters there are. Finster only goes on to say that even he doesn't know how many there are, as he spent a long time creating many of these fake humans and now, they are everywhere. Trini asks him if he has any way of tracking them to know when they will transform, but Finster says he doesn't know anything since it's a decided lack of control, and that's why this is art, because it's chaotically random. Obviously, the Rangers don't agree that this is art, but Finster says that everyone has their own point of view since art is subjective. In addition to this, he also tells them that they are going to have many opportunities to see for themselves, as today was only the beginning. After this interrogation, all the Rangers are reunited and Kimberly asks Saba how long until Zordon returns, but unfortunately, Saba replies that it will still take several days. Jason asks Billy if there will be any way to track these monsters, but he replies that they can only track them after they turn into beasts. Zack is still very persistent and tells Jason that they both know who is the right person who could help in this situation, but Jason is adamant that he doesn't want to involve civilians in this. Just then the alarm sounds due to someone being near the command center, and the Rangers can't believe what they are seeing. The person standing at the entrance is Grace Sterling, the owner of Promethea, and she tells the Rangers that there is no time, so they must open up fast. The Rangers teleport out of the command center with their helmets on, so she doesn't recognize them, but Grace says something more impressive, and that is that she says she needs to talk to Zordon. The Rangers don't understand what's going on, they don't know how she knows Zordon, and how she knows about this place. On top of this, she greets Alpha as if they have been friends for a long time and tells the Rangers that she knows everything for a simple reason. Jason asks her for that simple reason, and Grace replies that she was the Red Ranger. In order to understand the story, we must first meet the Supersonic Power Rangers, a very old team that suffered a betrayal from their Green Ranger. This story is longer, but in short, this Green Ranger joined Dark Spectre and became the Psycho Green Ranger. After 100 years of this event, in 1969 people were watching a very important moment in the history of mankind, the first man to reach the moon. What no one knew was that on the moon was a ship that had crashed, and it was the Psycho Green Ranger ship. This ship was in hibernation, and because humans were nearby, the ship was able to detect them. This caused the ship to begin the protocol to wake up, and now the Psycho Green Ranger will once again be a threat after being dormant for 100 years. There are many people watching this great moment on television, and here we are shown 5 very important people in this story, which are from different places. Later we can see a woman sitting on the roof of a building in Nazada, and this woman is Grace Sterling. In this story she looks very young, as all this happened in 1969, and at that time Promethea had not yet started. Sitting on that building she starts talking to her friend and confesses that one of her biggest dreams is to travel to the moon, but because at that time women were not considered for that kind of thing, she had no hope that she was going to make it. Her friend begins to encourage her, but at that moment, Grace disappears, and basically teleports away. Zordon and Alpha had teleported her to the command center along with 4 other people. In this group there are now 2 women and 3 men, which are very different. The man in the blue clothes comes from Russia and no one can understand what he is saying as he obviously starts speaking in Russian. The man in the orange clothes starts insulting Zordon because he thinks he was kidnapped, and all this confusion causes everyone to start arguing amongst themselves. Suddenly, the Russian starts speaking the same language as the others and they all think he speaks the same language as them, but he tells them that he is speaking Russian. This man's name is Nikolai, and he was actually speaking Russian, but Alpha had activated the translators in the command center so they could all communicate in the same language. Then the other woman in the group asks Alpha what it is, and the man dressed as a military man, whose name is Turona, asks if it is a robot alien. Alpha replies that it is just that and also tells her that his name is Alpha 5, but also introduces them to Zordon. Quickly Zordon begins to explain to them the purpose for which they are in the command center and tells them that the fate of planet Earth depends on them. He also tells them that 10,000 years ago a witch named Rita Repulsa was conquering the world, but he managed to stop her with the help of others and locked her in a magical makeshift prison on the moon. Since Zordon knew that someday they were going to look for her, he installed defensive cannons and 100 years ago they had to use them. The Psycho Green Ranger, Dark Spectre's assistant, had been sent to free Rita, and when Zordon realized this, they shot his ship with cannons. Now after 100 years they realized that they never managed to destroy the ship, it just crashed and was in hibernation during all this time. During all the hibernation the ship kept it alive, and now with the arrival of humans to the moon, the ship just woke it up. Alpha 5 managed to block the ship's communication so that the Psycho Green Ranger can't communicate with Dark Spectre, but despite this he is going to try to finish the mission, and this will release the most evil entity ever seen. Zordon tells the group that they must stop the Psycho Green Ranger and that they were chosen for their passion, dedication, and determination to be the Power Rangers. Some are a little angry because they don't even know what a Power Ranger is, plus they think they should just fire the cannons again, but Alpha tells them that can't be done. Zordon explains to them that the Power Rangers are a team of elite warriors who channel the power of ancient dinosaurs to defend the world from the forces of evil. Trona feels they don't have much of a choice, but Daniel says that they are just normal people and are not warriors. This starts a small argument, but Zordon manages to catch Grace's full attention as they must go to the moon, and that is her dream. Grace quickly behaves like a leader and manages to convince everyone to accept the mission. Zordon hands out the morphers to everyone and names Grace as the team leader and the first ever Red Ranger on Earth. Everyone gets into position and Grace a little hesitantly repeats the same thing Alpha 5 said, "It's Morphin time." Everyone transforms and we can quickly see a very different team than the one we knew in 1993. Grace, being a woman, is the Red Ranger, the other woman is the Black Ranger, the Yellow and Pink Rangers are men. To better explain the position of each of them, the Black Ranger is Jamie, the Blue Ranger is Nikolai, the Russian, the Red Ranger is Grace, the Yellow Ranger is Turona, the military man, and the Pink Ranger is Daniel, who is a bit angry about getting that color. Alpha teleports the new Rangers to the moon, near the space dumpster that Rita was locked in, and they are all very shocked to be on the moon. Grace gets so excited that she starts crying, but the other Rangers start arguing over nonsense about the trips to the moon that Russia and the United States have attempted. Grace tries to calm the situation and begins to form a plan, but Nikolai doesn't want to follow the orders of a woman who also only manages a group of secretaries. The Blue Ranger feels that he can be a better leader and does not care if the Blue Head chooses her as the leader. He is going to do whatever he wants. Nikolai's plan is to hunt down the Psycho Green Ranger, and Grace decides that she is going to go along with that idea but asks him to make it a coordinated thing. Because she has a lot of knowledge about the moon, she creates a plan and tells the Blue and Black Rangers to go to a certain part of the moon to see if they can find the enemy's ship. These two Rangers leave, but when they arrive at the place it was too late because the Psycho Green Ranger was already prepared. While the two of them try to get to know each other better, the Psycho Green Ranger prepares to attack them from behind and take them by surprise. Meanwhile, the other team members continue to wait, but quickly start another argument over silly things as they are all very different and have very opposing views. At that moment, they hear the Black Ranger call for help, and then they see a big explosion near that place. The Psycho Green Ranger was beating up the Rangers, and even though the Blue Ranger was able to attack him, this was not enough to stop him. The Psycho Green Ranger hits Nikolai so hard that he sends him flying far away, but Grace manages to catch him before he hits the ground, and now the Psycho Green Ranger lifts a big rock to try to crush the Black Ranger. Despite her pleading for her life, this evil ranger shows no mercy and crushes her with that big rock. Trona and Daniel try to attack the enemy, but the enemy manages to destroy the Pink Ranger's helmet glass, which causes him to start choking. The Rangers try to help Daniel, but the Psycho Green Ranger stops them with a very powerful attack. After this, he goes in search of the dumpster to free Rita and finally finds it. Fortunately, Alpha manages to explain to the Rangers how to build the power blaster, and with this they manage to strongly attack the evil Ranger. The Rangers think they managed to destroy it and also realize that the Black Ranger and the Pink Ranger are dead. For the Blue Ranger this is something normal since he belongs to the Soviet Union, but Grace is very affected by these deaths. At that moment, a green energy begins to appear, and the Psycho Green Ranger is transformed into a giant monster. The Rangers can't believe what they are seeing, so they start running until they come across the Bandora Palace, and outside there is a giant cannon. Because of her military experience, Trona realizes that they won't get many shots with that cannon, so after Grace's words to her, the Blue Ranger decides to sacrifice his life to save the Earth. Nikolai grabs the gun and jumps towards the monster so that it swallows him. Being inside the stomach, he causes a huge explosion that destroys the monster and also ends his own life. In the command center, Trona and Grace begin to blame Zordon for not having prepared them for the mission. Zordon accepts the blame and apologizes for putting them in that position, and also says that the Rangers who died will be remembered forever. Grace is very angry as she feels that Zordon is not so sorry for what happened and tells her that they are going to fix the world with those powers. Then, Zordon disappoints them when he tells them that they are not going to keep the powers since the world is not in danger, but Grace and Trona try to explain that they could end the war. Despite this, Zordon tells them that they should be proud that they succeeded in the mission, but it is not their duty to interfere in the affairs of humanity. They both leave the command center very angry, and we can realize that Grace managed to keep the Psycho Green Ranger's sword. Now, Grace is inside the command center with all the Rangers, and something very curious is that after all the story she told them about the first team in 1969, now the Rangers no longer hide their identity from her. They are all without their helmets, and we can tell that they are very surprised with what they just learned about the terrible mission on the moon. Now all the Rangers start to ask Alpha for explanations since Zordon had a lot of time to tell them about this whole event and he never did, but Alpha answers them that it was not his duty to tell them this, it was Zordon's. He also tells them that what happened in 1969 has been one of the biggest losses they have ever had, and when Alpha starts talking about Zordon's return, Grace learns that he is gone. Grace also explains that she is not trying to cause trouble by telling them everything that happened on the moon mission, as she understands that Zordon did what he thought was best for everyone, and that is that he doesn't like to get involved in the affairs of humans. Then Trini understands that Grace created Promethea in order to help humanity by remembering those lives that were lost on the moon mission, and Grace confirms to her that she is right. Despite all this excellent life story, Tommy asks Grace what she has come for, and she tells them that the situation with Finster is getting worse, so they must all work together. Because of this, Grace asks the Rangers to accompany her to Promethea, and we finally get to see this famous place full of technology. The first thing we can notice is that Promethea is separate from everything else and is basically a small city, so it's not just a building. Grace starts showing the Rangers all the things they have in this tech city, and Billy confesses to her that he was about to have an internship in this place, but unfortunately, other things came up. Even though they are all amazed with everything they are seeing, Jason wants Grace to talk about the most important thing, but she tells him that the place is also part of the important stuff she wants to show them. After this, she takes them to another important place in Promethea, and there they meet Andrea, chief scientist of the Alien Technology Division. In this place they are all standing in front of a dark place, and behind that glass there is something very important. Grace turns on the light of that dark room, which is really a technology prison, and inside this place there is a man named Tony. Grace explains to them that Tony is a normal man who leads a simple life, and while she says all this, the man begins to scream, asking to be taken out of that place because he does not understand what is happening. Jason gets a little upset and tells Grace that he can't hold a man against his will, but Grace and Andrea prepare themselves for something important that is about to happen. This supposedly normal man transforms into a monster with 9 cat heads, and the Rangers quickly realize that he is one of Finster's monsters. Grace explains to them that in Promethea they have managed to find a way to track the monsters with an energy signal that begins to emit before they are about to transform. At that moment, Grace asks Andrea to activate the electric current, and this gives a great shock to the monster until he loses his life. The Rangers realize an important detail, and that is that this man did not know he was a monster, but the men who were with Finster did know that they were monsters. Grace surmises that Finster found a way to implant human memories in them so that this would help them to blend in with other humans before they became monsters. Even though the monster had effectively died after the electricity, it still wakes up and starts attacking everyone in the place. This monster is looking for a way to escape from that prison, and no one understands how he managed to survive after being electrocuted. The monster manages to escape from that place, but in the last image we can see something very strange, and that is that one of its heads is still lifeless. On the outside of the building there is a big explosion, and the monster is now trying to destroy everything, but the Power Rangers are ready to stop it. All of the monsters' heads have different personalities, some want love and others just want destruction. Zack manages to cut off one of those heads, but the monster is still alive and starts to launch a powerful attack. Suddenly, a door begins to open on the floor, and meanwhile, the Rangers realize that the monster is still alive since it has 9 lives, so for now they must kill it 7 more times. At that moment, Kimberly manages to launch her arrows to take another life, so now they must kill it 6 more times. The other Rangers start attacking the monster hard on different heads, but Billy has already lost count of how many times they need to kill the monster. If we go by their heads, then he only has 3 lives left, but at that moment, something very big crushes the monster and ends another one of his lives. What had stepped on the monster was a giant robot that Grace built in Promethea. Basically, it's almost like having your own Megazord. We can notice that this monster has a very different style, and you can tell that it is built in a place full of human technology. After this, Grace proceeds to crush it several more times in order to finish with the last remaining lives of the monster until it is totally destroyed. Inside the warehouse where Grace keeps this giant robot, the Rangers ask her if this is a Zord, but she tells them that it really is a robot since it does not use energy from the Morphin grid. Despite all this, Jason is not convinced that it is right for Promethea to have built a giant battle robot, but even though Grace understands his point, she still tells him that at Promethea they are proactive in trying to make the world a better place in all areas. She also explains to them that after Rita hacked the Ranger Zords, they felt it was time to build a backup plan, and that's why they have the giant robot. Grace also adds that for now the important issue is the situation with Finster, so again, she offers the Rangers to all work together. Promethea is able to start tracking the monsters before they transform, but unfortunately, the transports are too slow to be able to quickly get to the places where the monsters are. Because of this, she asks the Rangers to be a part of this since they can quickly reach those places with teleportation and therefore be able to destroy those monsters before they cause a tragedy. At that moment, the Rangers receive a call from Alpha, which says that he has good news as they have managed to have a breakthrough. After this, the Rangers can hear Zordon's voice, saying that he has returned. In a place far away in space we can see a very strange bar, which seems to have been created for villains and monsters. In this place there is a being that we have never seen before, and he is drinking something special as he tells the bartender that he traveled from far away just to have that drink. Although this being tells the bartender that he has only traveled here because he is the one who best prepares this drink, the bartender tells him that it is difficult to trust him because he is the magician of deception. With this they let us know that the name of this mysterious being is the Wizard of Deception, and at that moment he hears another voice. This voice is that of Rita Repulsa, who is accompanied by her lackeys and tells the magician that it is a challenge to find him. Then she asks him if he knows who she is, but the magician replies that the important thing is that she knows who he is. Rita sought out this magician to ask him to create a magical object, and apparently it is something so strange and difficult to create that she cannot create it herself. Rita already knew what this powerful wizard wanted, and so she brought it to him, but the Wizard of Deception could tell that this was going to be very complex magic. Rita's lackeys tell her that they have searched everywhere to find someone to do this magic, but everyone told her that they had to look for the Wizard of Deception. This magician tells Rita that what she has is not going to be enough to pay for this job, and then confesses to her that he really knows her. This is why the magician asks her that the only thing Rita can give him to pay for this job is to tell him the truth, the real reason why she needs this magic item. Rita begins to tell the magician the truth and confesses that she has failed. Rita has made a terrible mistake and is afraid of what will happen if she does not get back what she has lost. Because the magician felt that she told the truth, he is now willing to create the magic object for her, so he tells Rita to go and wait for him. At the Ranger Command Center, everyone is very happy that Zordon has returned, and they begin to tell him many things that have happened in his absence. Zordon is happy to be back and explains to the Rangers that it was disorienting to be without any emotional or physical connection, so any hope of returning was just that, a hope. Even though they are all happy, they try to explain to Zordon everything that has happened, but he tells them that while he was wandering in time, he was able to see some things, plus Saban kept him informed. Because of this, Zordon tells the Rangers that he understands that they must have a lot of questions because of what happened in 1969 and says that event is something that still haunts him. Zack tells him that it doesn't explain the reasons why he didn't tell the Rangers anything, and if he doesn't trust them, then they won't be able to trust him. Zordon apologizes to the Rangers and says that he understands their opinion as having tried to protect them from things in the past. He has been badly mistaken. Then Zordon also told them that he has some doubts about the deal they are going to have with Grace, as he understands that Promethea has too much advanced technology, and that is something strange. Billy asks Zordon if he thinks that Promethea is using the Morphin grid as a power source, and Zordon tells him that maybe they are. He then also explains that Grace wants to make the world a better place, and the problem with that is that as much as they want to shape the course of human history, the Rangers are not designed to do that, but to defend and protect. Jason disagrees with this, since Zordon has chosen humans to be Power Rangers and humans are always looking to change the world, so he can't think that they won't use their powers to try to change everything. Zordon replies to her that the problem with what Grace is looking to do is that it can become a problem as she is willing to take drastic measures. Saba also starts to give her opinion and basically says that decisive action definitely needs to be taken regarding Finster's monsters. Saba has an idea to be able to resolve this situation, but they still have to prepare for the worst. Jason then explains to Zordon that Grace has all the technology to be able to find the Finster's monsters, and that way they could put an end to the problem. Zordon tells him that if that is the direction he wants to go, then that is his choice, but advises him to be very careful. Now the Rangers are in Promethea, and we can see that they are all using their helmets to hide their identity. Tommy and Billy are working together, and Billy confesses to Tommy that it is very complicated to work with the helmet on, so Tommy gives him the idea of creating something that can block the security cameras. Billy is very happy with this idea, but he also tells Tommy that he can go talk to Trini and Kimberly since they can give him more conversation. Trini and Kimberly are analyzing the body of the monster that had 9 cat heads so they can find out more information about Finster's creations, and they both don't understand how Finster can give monsters personalities. Kimberly suggests that it's all magic, and Trini says that's precisely what scares her. The two then have a conversation about Kimberly's parents' divorce and her father's new girlfriend. She also mentions what happened with Tommy at the coffee shop since her father invited him to sit with them. In the pocket dimension, Saba tries to have a conversation with Finster to convince him to take another direction by telling him that it is going to allow him to do what any artist wants to create. Finster is confused as he has created before, but Saba clarifies that so far, he has only created what Rita has wanted and has not had the freedom to create what he wants. Saba's offer is for Finster to stay in this pocket dimension, since here he will be able to create whatever he wants with almost infinite energy, but he must stop the monsters he has created. Apparently, Finster didn't like the proposal very much, as he tells him that a creation is no good if it can't be appreciated. But Saba tells him that he thought art was purely about the act and not the audience. Finster tells him that not publishing your creations to an audience is not going to let you know their true value. Art is about the relationship between the creator and the audience. It is about the reaction provoked by the creation. Even though this site is awesome to be able to create anything, building just for the sake of building is boring. Besides, he can't control the monsters even if he wanted to, and the real reaction is the chaos that exists is the one you're not expecting. In Promethea, Jason is having a conversation with Grace in which she mentions that she has a lot of smart people working with her and also says that Billy is brilliant. Then they both start talking about how hard it is to be a Red Ranger and all the weight that comes with it. Jason tells her how hard it has become for him to be in that position, and Grace tells him that he is slowly going to start being able to anticipate situations so that he can better resolve crisis. In addition to this, she also tells him that she will always be available to help him make the burden of being the Red Ranger lighter. At that moment, the alarm sounds and there is a person about to transform into a monster, so Jason asks all the Rangers to be ready to leave. Quickly, the Rangers teleport and Andrea is very surprised with this Ranger technology. Andrea asks Grace if this is a good start and she says yes, but then asks if the Rangers know what she is planning, but they don't know anything. Then Grace admits that when the time is perfect, they are going to find out, but for now there is a world to save. This is the final episode of the Promethea saga, and although it was a saga with little drama, it is the one that opens the way to the best Power Rangers saga of all time. The next saga is going to be the Shattered Grid, and in this last episode of Promethea we get to see how it all started. Finally, Rita arrives at her palace on the moon, but she realizes that everything has been destroyed by the Dragonzord. Despite all this destruction, Rita and her lackeys think it's not so bad, so she starts using her magic to rebuild everything. Rita has managed to make the palace look excellent, and best of all, she has her throne ready. Her lackeys quickly think that the next step is to plan a new attack, but she tells them not yet. The first task Rita wants to accomplish is to find Finster, but we all know he's in the pocket dimension of the Rangers Command Center and it's going to be impossible to get him out of there. In New York, the Rangers are fighting a new monster that Finster had built to transform from his human form to an animal-like monster. This time we can see that this monster looks like a giant sheep and has certain artifacts all over its body that seem to emit a rather loud sound. After the Rangers have defeated so many monsters, they are now starting to make jokes about the identity of this particular monster. They also want to give it a name, but Billy suggests that they should ask the monster since they almost always already have a name. This giant sheep is focused on broadcasting a message, and this message is to tell people about the reality of human conspiracies. At all times he is always repeating that they should listen to Sheeple's message, which is obviously his name. Because the Rangers want to stop this monster, the giant sheep gets angry because they think he will not be allowed to broadcast his message and attacks the Rangers with a lot of wool coming out of his body. The Rangers don't understand what is going on since obviously wool is not something that can hurt you, but what they didn't know was that this wool turns into little monster sheep that are a big army. In Promethea, Grace is overseeing the Battle of New York, and at that moment, another employee arrives to warn her that there is another monster in Vancouver. The problem with this new monster is that it has not yet transformed, and the satellites cannot pinpoint its specific location, but they managed to find an approximate location. Grace decides not to tell the Rangers anything for now since they are still in the battle in New York, so the Promethea team is going to try to take care of the Vancouver situation until the Rangers are done with the giant sheep. In the meantime, the Rangers are trying to destroy all these new little monsters, but it is a very complicated situation as the giant sheep continues to create more wool. This giant sheep uses his loud voice to order his little wool monsters to do what he wants. After trying to attack people, the monster now decides that all the wool should come back to him, and in this way, he manages to catch some people. The Rangers no longer know how to resolve this situation as they basically have to destroy an entire army, and this is very complicated. Billy quickly uses his intelligence to come up with a plan but doesn't give the Rangers much information and proceeds to call his Zord. Billy asks the Rangers to keep helping people so they can give him some time, but Jason asks him to explain the plan so they can help him better, so Billy proceeds to explain. The Blue Ranger had realized that this giant sheep uses his voice to give orders to his army, so Billy configured the Zord's audio so that when he spoke into the microphone, his voice would sound the same as the monster's voice. In this way, Billy gets the army to follow his orders, and the first thing he asks them to do is to free the people. The giant sheep can't believe what is happening, so he starts trying to stop the little monsters, but it doesn't work. After this, Billy orders the little monsters to attack him, but because he is using the voice of the giant sheep, the army attacks the monster. Billy manages to destroy the monster and at the same time destroys the army. The Rangers begin to celebrate, but quickly hear the voice of Zordon, who warns them that there is a situation developing in Vancouver and they must go now. When the Rangers arrive in Vancouver, they find that there are many police and Promethea people who have paralyzed the entire area. The people in this place are not allowed to leave on orders by the local police and basically also on orders from Grace. She had quarantined all these people with the help of the local government to scan each person and try to find the monster. Obviously, the Rangers are against all of this since Grace is holding these people against their will, but Grace defends herself by saying that this is what is necessary. After that, Jason asks Billy if he can upgrade Promethea's scanner technology to amplify the signal, but the Blue Ranger says that in order to accomplish this he must go to Promethea's. Grace gives Billy permission to enter Promethea and Trini decides to accompany him. Jason tries to make it clear to Grace that this cannot happen again, but she tells him that they must discuss all that later. In the meantime, they must take the scanners in order to end this situation quickly. In the pocket dimension of the command center, Finster begins to hear a voice and realizes it is Rita's voice. She was communicating with Finster through her magic and tells him that he has decided to waste his time playing games, but then asks him to come over right away. Even though we thought Finster had no way out of that place, he had a trick in store and used his glasses to create a portal to escape. At Promethea, Billy managed to build a better scanner and asks Trini to take him to Vancouver, but he is going to stay to build an additional scanner. After Trini leaves, Andrea starts talking to Billy, but she doesn't know his identity. She tries to find out who the Blue Ranger is and thinks that they possibly already knew each other. Within all that conversation, Billy mentions that he had noticed that a part of Promethea was consuming more energy than the other areas and he would like to know why they need so much energy in that part. Andrea just tells him that those are just corporate secrets and that even she doesn't know everything about Promethea. In Vancouver, the Rangers are still talking about everything Grace has done, and Tommy thinks that if she did this, then she is capable of doing anything. While the Rangers are talking, we can see that Billy is walking silently through the halls of Promethea and apparently, he wants to find out what is in that other part that is using so much energy. At the entrance of that place there are two guards who are guarding the door, and they tell Billy that even he doesn't have the authority to pass to that confidential place. Billy apologizes and walks away from the place, but in reality, he was only hiding and then teleporting into the secret place. He quickly hears a very familiar voice telling him that this is an excellent way to get through a door, and then Billy realizes that this voice is Lord Drakkon.